le président du Caucus des parlementaires noirs. Et bienvenue à notre forum, notre consultation prébudgétaire avec la communauté noire à travers le Canada. Let me just say a few opening remarks to you all. First of all, we are going to ask you for a couple of things. We have the benefit of a lot of the services, the interpretive services of the House of Commons. To help them do their work, it would be wonderful. I don't know if you saw the email, but it'd be wonderful if you guys could be wearing a head mask, casque écouteur, a microphone and earbuds. Or earphones. And the reason why is that the computer microphone takes in so much sound. It's hard on their ears. And of course, their ears is very much their living. So if at all possible, if you have a microphone that you can plug in, that would be the best thing possible to help them do their work to provide information in both languages. En parlant de l'information dans les deux langues, speaking of interpretation, you will notice at the bottom of your screen, there is an icon that looks like a globe. That is interpretation. Please select one of three choices that you have. You could choose the floor sound. Alors, ça, c'est le son du parquet. Alors, aucune traduction qui est nécessaire pour ceux parmi vous qui sont des personnes bilingues, soit en français. Alors, si vous aimeriez recevoir tous les commentaires en français, or the bottom one on English, if you would like to have the English channel to have all the translation being done in English. So select which is the best for you, and you will benefit from our translation, our professional interpretation services that we have here at the House of Commons. Also, when you do speak, please speak at a fair pace, not too fast, please, if at all possible, so that we can allow them to interpret your comments as accurately as possible. Il y a une autre chose que j'aimerais vous faire, c'est tout d'abord de vous féliciter d'avoir participé dans ces consultations, puis aussi de présenter mes collègues parlementaires qui sont des membres du caucus des parlementaires noirs. Ce matin, on est vraiment choyé d'avoir une bonne brochette de députés et sénateurs, sénatrices qui font partie de notre évaluation. Puis j'aimerais vous les présenter. J'espère que j'oublie personne. On a Daryl Sampson, le député de Sackville-Preston-Chesapeake. On a la sénatrice Rosemary Moody de l'Ontario. On a l'honorable Judy Sgro, la députée de Humber River Black Creek. We have Doug Shipley, who is a member of parliament from Barrie, Springwater, Oro, Medonte. We have Jean Nip. She is the member of parliament from Scarborough Agincourt. We have Chandra Arya, the member of parliament from Nepean. We have Adam Vaughan, who is a member of parliament from Spadina, Fort York. On a la sénatrice Mobina Jaffer de la Colombie-Britannique qui est ici à 5h30 l'heure de Vancouver. On a Ikra Khalid, elle est la députée de Mississauga, Erin Mills. On a Annie Koutrakis, la députée de Vimy. Et mon collègue Tony Van Bynen, le député de nord de l'Ontario, de nord de Toronto. And Tony, I'm sorry, I forgot the riding name. So I'll get that corrected for the next panel. So these are the folks who are going to be joining us in this morning's panel. There'll be an afternoon panel later on. For this morning's panel, we're separating it into three groups. So the first group that will be asked to make presentations in the first hour will be representatives from the Black Opportunity Fund, Colin Lynch and Charmaine Emerson and Ray Williams. We have the African Association of Canada, Godlove Ngwafuzi and Hector Addison. I know Godlove very well. The Afro-Caribbean Business Network Foundation, Ryan Knight. We have Upsurgence by Claudia McCoy. We have Black in Saskatchewan by Dolapa Fadare and Vibia Natana. We have the 613-819 Black Hub, represented by Robin Brown and Lise Pascal Inamuko. C'est une grande amie qui s'est présentée à la ville pour être conseillère de la ville d'Ottawa. We also have the International Black Economic Forum, le Forum économique international des Noirs, qui est représenté par Kerlande Mibel et Fidèle Togua. On a le groupe M9, groupe Afrique Plus, by Jean-Marie Vianney. We have the South Sudanese Community Association of Canada, represented by Francis Yell. We have the Challenger Consulting and Associates, represented by Roxanne Challenger. And we also have the Adin Farm, represented by Janelle Scarrett and Rudolph Williams. So that will be our first morning panel, and then we'll take a 2-minute break to give our folks, technical folks, a bit of time to change around, and then we'll move into our second and third panel afterwards. So I just want to give you at least a sense as to where we are for the first hour. Avec ça, je pense qu'on est prêt à commencer. Juste encore une fois, j'insiste à vous dire que vos présentations vont être de 2 minutes. Je serai assez strict avec ce temps-là parce que si chaque personne prend 2 minutes, ça va nous laisser 40 minutes à la fin à vous poser des questions qui vont venir des parlementaires pour approfondir nos connaissances de vos demandes. So I would suggest that when you do make your presentations, that you might want to leave off, don't put as much emphasis, I should say, on who you are and the association, because we have that information, but get right into what you're looking for and why you're looking for it. So what were your recommendations and why you're seeking those recommendations? That's a great way just to get to the substance of the issue so that we don't run out of time. It's incredible how fast 45 seconds takes just to say your name, the organization that you're with, and some of the things that you do. So let's get to the meat of the substance first, and then we have time to go into greater detail. I will give you a discrete I'll give it a little one sign, my finger will rise up. I'm not trying to get your attention, or I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm just want to let you know that you have 1 minute left of your 2-minute presentation. And then at 2 minutes, I'll intervene. Avec ça, j'aimerais commencer avec la première personne, ou les premières personnes qui vont se présenter, c'est the Black Opportunity Fund, Colin Lynch and Charmaine Emerson, Ray Williams. I don't know who's going to go first, but you can unmute your mic to speak at this time. Who is going to be taking the lead to make the presentation?
It's Ray Williams here, but Charmaine will also be speaking.
Great, thanks, Ray. Go right ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with all of you about the Black Opportunity Fund. My name is Ray Williams. Charmaine.
And my name is Charmaine Emerson. Ray and I are co-founders of the Black Opportunity Fund, along with 49 others. We collectively came together and launched this fund in June of this year in order to create economic and social empowerment for our communities right across this country.
The fund is a unique and dynamic partnership between the Black community, businesses, philanthropists, government, and foundations, with a desire to build a sustainable and long-term pool of capital to combat the impact of anti-Black racism in Canada. Candidly, our mission is to raise and mobilize the world's largest permanent pool of capital to serve and empower the Black community. And we intend to do so by allocating resources to community organizations who lead initiatives that impact the life of the Black community. So Black-led, Black-focused, Black-serving. This includes healthcare, education, criminal justice, social policy, youth, technology, entrepreneurship, and the arts. The desire is to make investments in Black businesses across numerous industries at various stages of development to drive economic empowerment in the Black community nationally. We want to facilitate access to capital for Black businesses to help them achieve scale.
And I would encourage all of you to please refer to our 100-day executive report. It is a summary of consultations that we held extensively right across this country. So please visit our website, and that's at blackopportunityfund.ca. Thank you.
I would underscore again that that 100-day report is a reflection of the listening that we had from our community, and what's contained in there really does reflect what we heard and how we were informed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray, and thank you, Charmaine. I do appreciate that. Just came in right on time. On va passer à notre deuxième, le deuxième groupe. Ça, c'est the African Canadian Association, qui est représenté ici by Godlove and Hector. Godlove, are you on the line?
Yes, thank you very much. This is Godlove, and we'll have Hector on the other line.
Yeah, this is Hector here. I would like to go first, and then Godlove will follow. Yeah, we want African Center. Well, I think we've spoken about it before. An African Center, a place that symbolizes our struggle and also our future, a place that will be a partly museum of African culture and also a partly business hub that we will be able to incubate ideas to enable us to participate fully in the Ottawa's economy. So that is one of our requests. We were also requesting that fund be set aside to establish what we call Anti-Racism Review Commission, similar to that of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission established to be able to review all the policies, laws with an anti-Black racism lens. Our people are suffering a lot, and then we need to make sure the foundation is built right so we can build on it. And so that is it. I'll turn over to Godlove, and Godlove will finish it up.
Yes, thank you, Hector. The African Descendant Centers of Excellence, that's what we're aiming for, will be hubs that will be the nucleus that unites and fires up the African descendants to work in unison, and collectively build our fragmented and decimated communities to become the powerhouse that will help propel Canada to become a true North, strong and free. The following specifics will help to free up and empower African descendants to rebuild themselves and build a powerful Canada in the process. Serious monetary investments must be made on these African centers we're talking about, centers of excellence, which will be a source of pride and business idea incubation hub, where we can all work from the same data-driven handbook as where to maximize returns on investment. We will need to constitute a legal and policy review commission to interrogate the laws and policies of this land with an anti-Black racism lens. And finally, relentlessly and continuously provide Black business support so we can, in turn, empower the nation to become what it must become to fully thrive in a very competitive global marketplace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Godlove. Thank you very much, Hector. Appreciate that. Moving on to the next association, we have is Ryan Knight from the Afro-Caribbean Business Network Foundation online?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you very well. Please go ahead, Ryan.
To date, ACBN has created partnerships with over 20 Black-focused business support organizations, which has helped us launch the first Black-led microloan program in Ontario. This to complement the recent announcement of the loan fund the federal government rolled out to fill the gap of loans needed between $500 and $25,000, requesting $5 million to fund this microloan program. In addition, thanks to our partnership with the Dream Legacy Foundation, SETC, and Empowered for X, we've been able to launch the first Black Business Development Hub, a 2-story, 18-room building with event space and a commercial kitchen right next to the Pearson Airport. We would like to recommend a policy that ensures infrastructure is built and maintained for the Black community. For example, being able to duplicate the Black Business Development Hub in every major city across Canada and targeted rural settings. This would include a pool of funds no less than $50 million per province. Lastly, improving transparency from the Government of Canada. For context, in July of this year, RBC announced $100 million to support Black entrepreneurs with no details, no method to apply, and no timeline. Unfortunately, our government did not do any better with their announcement of the $221 million to support Black entrepreneurs. It took months to get details, and still there's no public work plan we can follow along with. Sadly, this is not limited to the federal government, as my own hometown of Brampton created an anti-racism economic development unit with no details and no public work plan to follow along. Our recommendation is to create a policy that ensures inclusiveness and transparent project management for any program designed for the Black community. This would include funding for the project management of these initiatives and the involvement of expert service providers of African and Caribbean heritage, with a public-facing website that highlights milestones and monthly reviews. Thank you for your time, and I encourage everyone to read the Black Manifesto for our community.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ryan. I appreciate that. And sorry for the late notice on the 1 minute.
Oh, no worries.
I was listening intently, of course. Is Claudia, good, Claudia, there you are.
Good morning.
Caught your laughter and got you there. So Claudia from Upsurgence is there. So Claudia, the microphone is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. I'm the founder of Upsurgence and Upsurgence Initiatives. We engage communities. My ask today is that we take a triple bottom line approach to the Black entrepreneurial loans. With that being said, I would love an impact of forgiveness model, meaning that we set and the government sets certain standards like how well an organization who gets a loan impacts positively or by reducing Black unemployment among the youth, or create structural marketplaces within the diaspora, both locally and internationally. Having these type of measurements of excellence be rewarded by actually having portions of the grant, if not all of it, of the loan forgiven and turn into a grant model, if the entrepreneur is able to do social impact that the government desperately wants. Thank you. I can't hear you.
Yes, it would help that after 8 months I would learn how to operate the unmute button. No, that was 1 minute. That was perfect. Thank you. And appreciate that. I'd like to now switch to Dolapo Fadare or Vibia Natana from Black in Saskatchewan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vibia.
Hi. So dear esteemed guests and members of Parliament, my name is Vibia Natana, and I'm one of the co-founders and the Chief Operating Officer of Black in Saskatchewan. I'm accompanied today by Dolapo Fadare, our Chief Financial Officer. Our mission is to contribute to the holistic growth of the Black community in Saskatchewan by addressing systemic issues, connecting members to various networks, and educating on Black experiences. We currently engage with the City of Regina, Regina Police Service, the Ministry of Education, and multiple school boards by conducting, analyzing, and presenting research to facilitate and inform public policy with each of these institutions. So our top priorities in all of our engagements are increasing funding for disaggregated race-based data and implementing formal policies, such as racial bias training to protect communities across Saskatchewan. So Black in Sask's 3 priority areas have been based on community feedback and the roadblocks we've experienced in our advocacy efforts.
We identified that disaggregated race-based data was critical because we could not find quantitative data to affirm the lived experiences gathered from our public consultations. The lack of quantitative data on the Black community prevents policymakers from identifying socioeconomic barriers, hence excluding the Black community from accessing the resources required to address the identified barriers. Based on our consultations, we also found that Black students frequently experience acts of anti-Black racism, such as being called the N-word with no repercussions. Black students are villainized to the point that law enforcement overwhelmingly dismisses signs of arrest, leading to a rampant mental health crisis in our community. This is why Black in Sask strongly advocates for a national standard of anti-Black bullying policies that stipulates a framework for educational institutions that includes protecting the victim, penalizing and educating the perpetrator. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Dolapo, and thank you very much, Vibia. I really do appreciate that. Moving on to the next group, we have the 613-819 Black Hub. well known in the National Capital Region, Robin Brown and Lise Pascal.
I think it's just me.
Okay, go ahead, Robin.
Hey, everybody. So to the caucus, you all know that you are my comrades, especially Greg, but I want to say we said last year that this 2-minute format, it done on its own and with no follow-up is not effective. So our ask is pretty simple. We want everything in the alternative federal budget recovery plan in the section titled, let's get that right now, recognition, justice, and development for Black Canadians. We want all that implemented, and to pay for it, we want to restore the federal corporate tax rate back to the 2009 rate of 90%, which is also in the alternative federal budget recovery plan. That's it.
That was very brief, and I hope you'll benefit from any questions, Robin, so that there'll be follow up onto this format. So thank you very much for that. Let us move now to the International Black Economic Forum, le Forum économique international des Noirs, Kirlande Mibel et Fidèle Togoua.
Bonjour, c'est moi. Donc, merci pour l'invitation.
Bonjour Kirlande.
Oui, donc, inviter tout le monde à aller prendre leur traduction en français, là.
Tout le monde est déjà branché.
OK. Donc nous, on avait fait quelques propositions et parmi celles qu'on veut vous présenter ce matin, c'est que le gouvernement crée un fonds dédié pour l'amélioration à l'accès à la propriété, pas seulement pour les maisons résidentielles, mais surtout pour qu'on puisse avoir accès à des capitaux pour financer des projets de développement résidentiel dans nos quartiers, pour développer des coopératives et convertir certains bâtiments pour lutter, entre autres, contre la gentrification. Ça serait un. Et toujours dans le même esprit d'accès à la propriété, on propose que le gouvernement crée ce qu'on appelle des baby bonds pour s'assurer qu'ils puissent avoir des transferts de patrimoine de génération à génération, pour au moins commencer à le créer chez les Noirs. Je n'insisterai pas sur l'importance que le gouvernement puisse mettre de côté, s'assurer que le système d'approvisionnement puisse bien représenter les entreprises détenues par des entrepreneurs noirs, donc qu'ils puissent faire un set-aside en fonction du quota, pas du quota, mais en représentation de la proportion des Noirs de la population du Canada. Ensuite, nous, on aimerait, au niveau de l'entrepreneuriat, qu'on puisse mettre l'emphase sur le fait qu'on a beaucoup de micro-entreprises et qu'on doit les soutenir, donc créer une pépinière de micro-entreprises pour qu'elles puissent grandir. Souvent, on demande souvent, est-ce que vous avez des entreprises à haut niveau, à haut impact? Mais on n'a pas pris le temps de bâtir cette pépinière-là. Donc, nous, qu'on puisse mettre de l'argent, des fonds et des services pour accompagner les micro-entrepreneurs des différents secteurs d'activité que desservent nos populations. Ensuite, qu'ils puissent avoir également une flexibilité dans la capacité que les entreprises puissent payer là, je ne le dis pas comme que je voudrais le dire, mais qu'ils puissent avoir de la flexibilité pour qu'ils puissent payer les dettes, soit les dettes, soit les prêts, et qu'ils puissent commencer à payer seulement quand ils commenceront réellement à être profitables et non pas 1 mois, 2, 3 mois après, comme c'est souvent le cas. L'autre chose que je voudrais insister, il n'y a pas de prospérité.
Rapidement, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, prospérité pour les collectivités noires si on ne met pas une emphase sur les femmes. Et donc, j'aimerais vraiment qu'on puisse mettre le gender-based analysis soit vraiment dans toutes les politiques pour les communautés noires. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Kirlande. C'est fort apprécié, puis j'imagine que vous aurez beaucoup de questions à la fin. J'aimerais passer maintenant au Jean-Marie Vianney, qui va parler de Groupe Afrique Plus M9.
Bonjour,
Jean-Marie.
Bonjour Greg, bonjour tout le monde. Merci de nous donner la parole. Trois choses sur lesquelles M9 Média aimerait insister. La première chose serait la création d'un hub médiatique pour immigrants francophones qui serait basé à Ottawa.
Excusez-moi, Jean-Marie, je ne veux pas vous interrompre, mais est-ce que c'est possible que vous pouvez juste approcher le micro à votre bouche juste pour nos... oui, c'est parfait, merci.
Parfait, merci. Donc, je m'excuse. Donc, la première chose que j'aimerais souligner serait pour M9 Média, la création d'un hub médiatique pour immigrants francophones qui serait basé à Ottawa, mais qui servirait toute la communauté de l'Ontario, qui serait un centre de production médiatique sur les enjeux qui touchent les immigrants francophones et particulièrement les immigrants d'Afrique et les migrants de la communauté noire. La deuxième chose qui serait importante pour nous, sur laquelle M9 Média travaille, c'est la mise sur pied d'une chaire pour combattre les anti-racismes, donc une chaire universitaire académique, une chaire de recherche sur le monde, les cultures noires et afro-descendantes. Et puis, nous avons déjà entamé des négociations avec l'Université Saint-Paul. Et donc, ça avance très bien et on aimerait avoir le support du gouvernement pour que ça se réalise. Et la dernière chose, en 10 secondes, serait la création d'un marqueur identitaire pour les communautés noires. Nous sommes en train de vivre tous les mouvements autour de George Floyd, les antiracismes, la négation du racisme systémique. Et nous voulons voir comme un monument qui serait peut-être l'équivalent de ce que la communauté juive a ici à Ottawa, un monument comme le monument de l'Holocauste qui représenterait toute la bataille autour des communautés noires. Et je vous remercie de nous avoir suivis et nous sommes prêts à prendre des questions là-dessus. Merci.
Tout le monde. I'll be right back with you. Everybody, I'm just going to find out if we can hold on for a second.
Started working now.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming through now. It's coming through now. Jean-Marie, est-ce que je peux vous demander de faire une deuxième présentation? C'était excellent. C'était à l'intérieur de 2 minutes. Je m'excuse, mais pouvez-vous vous représenter encore une deuxième fois?
Sorry, I want to before there were two. The woman before.
We will make sure that we'll go back to Carland.
Okay.
Carland, vous êtes toujours là?
Je suis là.
Alors, à cause du problème qu'on a eu avec la traduction, après, Jean-Marie, passé à vous pour une deuxième fois pour faire votre présentation.
Merci.
Qui était très courte. Super.
Allez-y. Bonjour tout le monde. Donc, je m'appelle Riviani du groupe M9 Média, donc groupe Afrique Plus. 3 choses que nous voulons mettre sur pied. Nous voulons voir réaliser donc le hub médiatique pour immigrants francophones qui serait basé à Ottawa, donc qui servirait les communautés de la communauté noire partout en Ontario, donc les enjeux autour de l'immigration et encadrer le plus, surtout avec la réalité des communautés haïtiennes et des frontliners membres de nos communautés. Il y a 2 choses sur lesquelles M9 Média travaille, c'est la recherche sur les communautés noires et afro-descendantes. Nous travaillons en collaboration avec l'université, la recte de l'Université Saint-Paul, donc nous sommes en train de faire des négociations et ils sont en train d'accepter de recevoir la chaire. Donc, on aimerait ça. Et puis, la troisième chose sur laquelle on veut travailler, c'est avoir ici à Ottawa donc un monument à l'exemple de la communauté juive avec le monument de l'Holocauste qui retracerait le parcours des communautés noires au Canada et, et qui aurait l'effet d'un marqueur identitaire pour les communautés noires et lutter contre les antiracismes. Voilà un peu ce qu'on voulait apporter autour de la table ce matin. Je vous remercie, je m'excuse. J'aurais pu le dire en anglais, mais je le dis en français parce que ça sort plus vite. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Jean-Marie. C'était, encore une fois, c'était très excellent. Si on peut repasser à Carland pour votre présentation excuse-moi, Carland, de le Forum économique international des Noirs.
Donc, merci pour cette deuxième opportunité. Je disais, nous, on aimerait que le gouvernement puisse mettre un fonds dédié qui était par les Noirs pour justement faciliter ce transfert de richesse. Je dirais avec ce programme commencer dans ce sens. Ensuite, au niveau de l'approvisionnement, plusieurs en ont déjà parlé dans les différentes présentations, mais on voudrait quand même insister que le gouvernement puisse commencer à travailler réellement avec les entrepreneurs issus des différents communautés noires et qui puissent le faire en fonction de la représentativité démographique des collectivités noires. Et 2 choses au niveau de l'entrepreneuriat, on aimerait qu'on puisse décider de développer une pépinière de petites entreprises, donc de micro-entreprises, pour justement aider les entreprises à bâtir leur capacité et à devenir réellement de haut à haut impact. En général, on demande à des entreprises à haut impact, mais on n'a pas pris le temps de nourrir ceux qui commencent pour qu'ils puissent bâtir et développer leurs muscles entrepreneurial. Et la dernière chose qu'on aimerait ajouter parmi la liste de ce qu'on proposait, c'était également qu'on puisse avoir une flexibilité dans les différents paiements de prêts pour les entrepreneurs noirs. Souvent, quand on leur donne un prêt, c'est après 1 mois, 3 mois, ils doivent commencer à rembourser. Nous, on dit qu'ils doivent commencer à rembourser lorsqu'ils deviennent réellement profitables et non pas une petite croissance, puis boum, ils doivent aller sur leur fonds de roulement pour pouvoir rembourser. C'est l'autre chose qui est très importante pour nous. Il n'y a pas de prospérité si on ne met pas l'accent sur les femmes des collectivités noires. Et puis, voilà. J'espère que j'ai respecté le minute.
Super, c'est excellent, juste à l'heure. Merci pour ces 2 présentations. I will now pass to Francis for the South Sudanese Community Association of Canada. Francis? Ah. Est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un ici? Is there someone here from the South Sudanese Community Association of Canada? Move on to Dink Rafam, sorry. And I believe we have Ginelle Scarrett who is on here, and Rudolph Williams. Ginelle, I saw you earlier. There.
Go ahead. Greetings, everyone. Good morning. Bonjour. We would like to address several concerns. One is there is a pending Canadian Institute for People of African Descent that we would like to see supported. Many of our colleagues spoke or intimated the need for data disaggregated by race and so on, and the proper statistics. So we need to have a applied research foundation. We would like to see CPAD funded to the tune of $25 million over the next 5 years to ensure that it is able to be anchored and be able to work with all of the people that it needs to. Also, we have a big concern with regards to our justice system and the incarceration of people of African descent in our prisons. We're especially concerned about those people who are in there for cannabis-related offenses. Some of them, petty trafficking and so on, who are now serving time for something that in our country is a legally sold substance. In fact, in many cases, being sold by the provincial governments themselves. So we would like to see that addressed. We think that $60 million will do the trick. Thank you so much. Also, we would like to see $10 million per province spent on dismantling the current child protective services, replaced with a community-based child protective services that would see cultural sensitivity. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that, Rudolph, and for making that presentation. I did skip a presentation, so forgive me for that. And that is Roxanne Challenger from Challenger Communications, Consultants and Associates. Roxanne, are you on the line? All right.
Oh, sorry.
So
can you hear
not
me?
here.
Sorry, I had
oh,
my
there
mute
you go.
on. Sorry.
Yes, we can. No problem.
Hi, I'm Roxanne Challenger from Challenger Consultants and Association. Associate, I'm a management consulting company. So what I'm here is I work with a lot of the Black community, nonprofit organizations and business. And my ask is I'd like to drive more procurement through a Black procurement policy and standard that is supported by the federal government with implementation with a team to initiate this. Drive infractions, opportunities in the community, carve out a percentage of federal government spending to include Black builders and contractors. Driving access to capital for entrepreneurs, find ventures, venture funds with Black community and investors, federal dollars, so they have more capacity to invest and scale up companies. Upskilling youth and individuals in underrepresented communities. And this part, I just want to make sure any big organizations or corporate companies that get bids into a community, like example, like if you use Metrolinx, when they're coming into a community, I just don't want them hiring. I want them to upskill. They would know about maybe if a year ahead, and upskill the community, train them for the skills. So when they leave the community, they improve the community and make sure the community is qualified. The other thing is too, when it goes into entrepreneur, if they could change the policy when it comes to requests for funding and include social enterprise, and then put some standards and guidelines in there. A lot of the funding, when it comes to entrepreneur, it's for nonprofit organizations. It doesn't meet the needs for an entrepreneur to apply. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for a presentation. I'm just going to check one more time if Francis Yell is on the call. I'm going to just take a look at the whole gallery to make sure that I'm not missing anyone.
He's not.
No, I do not see him here either. All right, well, thank you. Well, look, now let's turn over to the questions and answer period. So we have about a half hour in front of us to do the questions and answers. I'm going to ask members of Parliament if we can ask mostly parliamentarians to be involved in this process so that we can dig out some more details from you, and then we will pass on to questions that, if we have some time, from other participants. So the first question that I have, if I could ask MPs to please use the blue hands up process, but the first question that I have is from Chandra Arya. Chandra? Oh, unmute yourself, please.
Thanks, Greg. I should have known by now. Hector Codlow, I know that African Canadian Association of Ottawa last year did present the concept of an African center, African Descendant Center of Excellence, as you call it. I know it was there. If you guys have developed a proposal, if you have put some words to the concept, it would be good if you can share it with us. Can you do that after the meeting?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
I think last year we did that. We sent a proposal, I think, with an estimated cost of about 50 million or so. And that was just before the federal elections.
Yeah.
So I can resubmit to you, yes.
I know, because as you may have heard, this proposal is coming from several different participants from several parts of Canada now. Mm-hmm. Though some people have taken up, I see Ryan Knight here. Nice to see you, at least in picture, Ryan. Ryan, you did mention about the Black Business Hub that is currently operating in Toronto. I don't know whether it's in Mississauga, Brampton. If you can share some details later, that would be great.
Yes, absolutely. So technically it's in Mississauga. It's right by Pearson Airport. But yeah, so the building is built. There is plans to add an additional 2 stories to it. And that would cost about $2 to $3 million and acquire the land that is beside the building right now. I believe the Mississauga government owns it. So we're talking with Mayor Crombie about purchasing that land and then building an additional building. So really that's where I was asking, and I've been talking with different MPs around supporting infrastructure that's already in place and then using that as a blueprint to build more infrastructure in other
Absolutely.
cities.
You know, that's a great progress. That is actually, you are doing something physical that is ready. Jean-Marie, on the memorial, if you can offline get in touch with me, maybe later we can talk. We both are in Ottawa.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg. Back to you.
Thank you, Chandra, for those questions. I have a couple of questions as well. I have many questions. J'aimerais juste poser une question. Si je peux poser une question à Madame Mibel Kerland. La question que vous avez posée, vous avez proposé d'avoir un fonds générationnel. Pouvez-vous nous donner un peu plus de détails sur pouvez-vous renchérir votre idée pour ce fonds d'aller de génération en génération?
L'idée, c'est de dire que l'immobilier, c'est une des bonnes bases pour construire la prospérité d'une famille, d'une collectivité. Et nous, n'ayant pas eu accès à la propriété depuis plusieurs générations, donc c'est difficile de réduire cet écart-là. Et donc, une façon d'accélérer la réduction de l'écart, c'est de créer le baby bond. Ce n'est pas tant de créer un fonds qui va aller de génération, mais c'est de permettre à des enfants là, que le gouvernement fasse comme il a fait déjà pour l'épargne-études, donc de mettre un montant et ce montant dans un compte pour l'enfant qui naît jusqu'à ses 18 ans ou bien jusqu'à sa majorité, tout ça, et qui va faire en sorte que cet argent-là sera utilisé pour des projets de
juste un instant, Carlande, could you mute? Merci. Continuez.
Donc, c'est justement, compte tenu de les inégalités dont on connaît déjà l'importance, donc c'est une façon qui existe pour réduire cet écart-là. Donc, on crée un fonds, pas un fonds, mais on crée un compte, le gouvernement crée un compte pour les enfants des collectivités noires pour leur permettre, là, justement, d'accéder, d'avoir leur première propriété une fois majeure. Cette épargne-là ne pourrait être utilisée que pour des projets de cette nature-là. C'est une proposition qui est actuellement beaucoup poussée, entre autres, là, par le sénateur Cory Booker et d'autres think tanks là, pour réduire l'écart des inégalités de richesse là, pour les collectivités noires. Puis on peut avoir l'audace de clairement identifier les collectivités noires. Voilà.
Super. My second question, merci pour ça. My second question is for Claudia. Claudia, I was wondering if you want to just speak a little bit more expansively about turning loans into grants and why you feel that is a better model than the current model that we have. Oh, Claudia, sorry, you're on mute.
Thank you. So the reason why I believe that this is a good model is because, one, we need to have a loan model, if it's going to be corrective in any way, that actually rewards the people who are doing excellence within the community. And if the government is serious about having positive impact, then we should be honoring the businesses and the entrepreneurs that are not only creating good bottom line in the traditional sense, nickels and dimes and dollars, but also impacting the community in a great way. And as I said before, I also believe that it's important that our community, like a lot of other communities, are able to leverage their ancestral homes to build structural markets. So if we are able to effectively do that, we are also doing great things for the Canadian economy as a whole. So I believe that if we're able to say, if we give $1 and a Black entrepreneur is able to do $10 of impact, why ask for that dollar back? That entrepreneur has effectively done beyond what the Canadian government said it could do with that dollar. So if we create the proper criteria and look at, as we said before, triple bottom line, and look at all the things that we need to positively move the economy within the Black diaspora and the economy as a whole, I think it's a winning ticket. The other thing is that we can also start to look at, as an entrepreneur, how do we use our skill set as not only being good at generating income, but then doing good work in the community, such as reducing youth unemployment and creating those better structural economic models within our community.
Thank you very much. I see that Adam Vaughan has a question. I still have a couple of questions. I'm giving notice to the Black Opportunities Fund. I'll be back to them. But Adam.
Oops, I don't have my headset on. You know what, Greg, you go first, and I'll get my headset set up for the translation. There. Are we good? Okay. To Kurland, the lending and micro enterprise funding model you talked about yesterday, as we held other sessions with other members of the community across the country, there was talk of a Black an African Canadian credit union. And I'm curious as to how that concept and your concept may share similar space, and as a result, may be able to accomplish the pooling of capital and the extension of capital to home ownership and business development simultaneously, if those ideas share space, and if it's possible to accomplish both goals through that model.
Sorry, who was that question for?
For Kerland.
Kerland, est-ce que vous êtes là? OK, je pense qu'on a eu un petit pépin technologique.
Maybe I can jump in on behalf of
Go ahead,
Kerland,
Fidel.
and just to confirm on Adam, on Adam's question. And indeed, your comment, it's totally linked with the strategy that we have. Like, one of the strategies to create, for the government to create a fund, and is totally linked with what you just mentioned about the discussion about yesterday, because bottom line is to have, to give access to the Black community to a credit loan where they can go in to build their own power, and they're going to be autonomous. So it's a direct link, like giving the credit or giving like a rebate on buying back after a credit and so forth. This is all part of the strategy to ease up and give access to our Black community to a special loan credit that's going to help them to enhance their business and to be autonomous.
And to Claudia, sorry, you just popped in and off the screen. There you are. There is a trade relationship in terms of accessing the diaspora and connecting entrepreneurs across borders. CARICOM has a structure that allows us to work within countries in the Caribbean. Is there a parallel structure within the African continent around trade and around accessing the diaspora from the perspective of that continent? But as well, are we aware of any relationships within the wider diaspora in terms of the United States and England in terms of how to structure trade between this country's Black community and Black businesses in other diaspora countries?
So this is an excellent question. Just to give you a little background, back in February, I had the honor to create Brampton's first FDI trip to Nigeria. So we brought Patrick Brown and Councillor Charmaine Williams to Nigeria. And we looked at one of the discussions we had with the Lagos State governor was around looking at decolonializing trade. So that whole historical impact of that. Yes, there's CARICOM. There is the African, there's a free trade market that they're building that's unifying. But we also want to look at doing trade within, not only looking at the centers, the economic cores, which usually is European but we wanted to be able to build trades within. I've been doing a lot of research with my team to look at the current models of trade, not between Canada. I think Nigeria is the only country that we have tabled a bilateral agreement, but it hasn't been signed and ratified yet. So there are organizations, wonderful organizations like the Canadian African Chambers for Business that are doing a lot of work around this, and I've been partnering and working with them. And I think it'd be great that we look at doing this. One of the last conversations we had around this was around that structure marketplace, so that we can actually start leveraging, African Canadians here can start to leverage global businesses that within the African diaspora to strengthen strengthen our position here in the country. We see that with a lot of different communities within Canada that leverage their ancestral homes and connections, and gives them, those entrepreneurs, a comparative advantage within the marketplace. So we want to build something similar to that. Adam Vaughan, am I responding to your question? Am I missing an element? Okay. So I believe that if we are able, having a more, I talked to the Ghanaian High Commissioner, and one of the concerns is about tariffs with products that are produced. So we want to be strengthening our African diaspora right here in Canada, manufacturing, looking at different partnerships and collaborations within the diaspora to strengthen our economy.
Thank you, Claudia. I have a question before we move on to questions between organizations. I have a question for Charmaine or for Ray. Can you give us a quick summary, or two questions I'll ask. Can you give us a quick summary of the 100-day executive report that you'd produce, and for the purposes of getting it on the record? And secondly, in regards to the $800 million that you were looking for contribution to a standalone fund for the Black community, I was wondering if you could also go into, how, what would be the total amount that you were hoping to have into that fund, which would be from all sources into that standalone fund.
Charmaine, do you want to take parts of the 100-day in terms of what we heard?
Sure, absolutely. So we conducted this in-depth consultation, which we are all collectively super proud of, where we went out to the community, Black communities within Canada, from as far west of Vancouver all the way across to the Maritimes, so that we could actually put our ear to the ground to understand what are the priorities within our communities when we are looking at lifting us up and providing economic and social empowerment. What we heard is that we need a lot. There's a lot more to be done. The government's moves, the $221 million, was a fantastic step forward. No denying that whatsoever. However, what we also heard is that we have extensive areas of concerns that we need to take a look at to build our community up, so that we can, in fact, reduce that wealth gap. So whether that's healthcare, taking a look at education, youth, criminal justice, political engagement, to see us all come together right now in this forum is fantastic. And of course, there's the arts and culture. So what we heard is that we need a lot more in order to be able to build up our community beyond the support we're giving to Black-led businesses.
So, Greg, with regards the just for clarity on the 800 million question, in terms of the ask we have in front of government, it's quite specific. We've done some quite diligent work around what this would look like. Our model is built and fashioned after the Equality Fund model, which the government supported, and that was a focus on gender. Part of what we're trying to undertake here is recognizing that it is not just government, but it is the corporate world. It is also philanthropy. We saw a recent report talking about how little, as a community, we receive as it speaks to dollars that comes through philanthropic channels. We see that very clearly from a business standpoint, because you've heard it yourself from people like Ryan and others on the line. Our businesses are suffering to such a huge extent. We are facing an unprecedented situation within our community. All COVID has really done is underscored, underlined, and really put a spotlight on how badly served and under-resourced our community happens to be. If I was to look at the amount of dollars necessarily being spent currently, I would have to say that the portion that has been allocated to the Black community is a first step, but insignificant, because if you had a $100 billion fiscal update and to date, 93 million has been allocated to our community, it makes a very large statement around that gap that I'm referencing. So we are dealing with an unprecedented situation. It calls for unprecedented action. And we believe that the undertaking that we have right now, based on what we have engaged in terms of community listening, because we've made sure that we hear from those we're trying to serve. We focus on the 3 Bs, Black-led, Black-focused, Black-serving, and we basically ensure that we're collaborative, that we're listeners, and we want to serve in a way that is going to be meaningful, that has sustainability, builds capacity, and permanence. And so this would be a good starting point.
I'm going to go to questions from Miriam and Jean-Marie to end off this panel. But before I do, there's been a lot of mention that's come across in many groups of the importance of having disaggregated data. Robin, I'm wondering from the 613-819 hub, if you would like to talk about how you see that in terms of the importance of having disaggregated data.
Oh, it's crucial for whatever sector you're working in. I'll give an example from my other half, right? The Federal Black Employees Caucus, right? So the survey that the government does every year, the Public Service Employees Survey that asks questions about discrimination and harassment levels, had no information on Black people ever until the FBEC, Federal Black Employees Caucus, said, we need that. We pushed it, and now it's in there, and it's having that's incredibly powerful, right? We have the first year was last year, the 2019. Now that the survey is being done now, so now we have this baseline, right? So having that disaggregated data everywhere across the board, whether it's in education or healthcare, it's essential for. Comes down to that basic model that if you can't name the problem and measure it, it doesn't get managed, right?
Thank you for that. Jean-Marie Vianney, vous avez une question?
Je voulais juste, Greg, ajouter par rapport à la relation avec la diaspora africaine, à la question qui a été posée. Je pense qu'en février dernier, j'étais comme journaliste donc, à l'Union africaine pendant le séjour du Premier ministre en Afrique, à l'Union africaine. Et je crois qu'il peut y avoir une piste au niveau à l'Union africaine, il y a la sixième diaspora, à la place de la 6e diaspora. Ça pourrait être une piste. Et puis, je pense que les parlementaires ont un organisme qui s'occupe et qui s'adresse, qui a un œil en Afrique, qui ça pourrait être comme des pistes et solutions pour essayer d'établir des relations entre le continent africain et la diaspora afro-canadienne ici. Donc, ça pourrait être, on pourrait regarder là-dedans. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle je voulais prendre la parole pour parler de cette sixième...
le sixième diaspora, c'est...
Oui,
exactement, c'est très important. Excellent, merci. Also, Miriam, Madame, who will be presenting in our next panel. I hear you have a question or a comment that you would like to make, Miriam? If you just want to take off, go ahead.
Yes, first of all, I want to say thank you. This is to Claudia, because I like the idea of the leveraging with our African descent. Because what they did with Nigeria is good, and I've been already doing quite a few things in East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda. So I will definitely like to know how we can manage to engage that, because with African Diaspora Partnership, and it'll help to reduce a lot of crime in our young people, youth, because we took youth for the sports in Tanzania, and it helped for them to know and appreciate a lot of things because of the education. That's what we are looking for, and we can manage to collaborate with other communities instead of reinvent the wheel. Like sometimes it's nice to work together and to do that.
Claudia, I don't know if you want to answer that, and also there's a question from Delapo, which will be the last question that we have for this panel. Claudia, did you want to say a few words in response to Miriam? I think we might have lost her again. The connection sometimes goes, but she'll log back on. Dolapo?
Yes, I just wanted to make a quick comment also on the conversations around the diaspora. The member of parliament, Adam Vaughan, had asked if there are other organizations out there doing international trade and innovation. One of those is the Economic Innovation Institute for Africa. In 2017, I had done a trade mission trip with them to Nigeria as well. But they recently went to the Canary Islands 2 years ago, and each year they have they work with both private organizations and governments to facilitate trade between African countries, as well as Canada, US, and the United Kingdom, actually. So they're a think tank based in Ottawa, and a really great organization for intercontinental trade, but also Pan-African trade as well.
Can you give me that name once again? There's the Economic Institute.
Economic Innovation Institute
for
Africa. Yeah.
For Africa?
Yeah, Economic Innovation Institute for Africa. I can also send the contact information for the president of the the chair of the organization. He's a Nigerian Canadian himself, but right now a chief economist in the US. So again, there's a lot of Pan-African initiatives going on right now on the economic front, both for research and for trade.
Thank you for that. And I'd actually thank you in an unwitting way. You reminded me that I would like to let all the people who've presented here is that if there is additional information that you would like us to consider, please, in our report, can you please email it to us, to the contact person who had been in contact with you to book your appointment here. When we are going to be publishing at the end of all of this a summary document, and it's important for us. We can't report what we didn't hear. So if there's some additional information which you think would be germane for us to have, please send it to us. We'll be happy to have that. Our researcher will be happy to integrate that into the final synopsis and report that we'll put together for early in the new year. All right, with that, I'd like to thank all the people who had presented this morning. We are going to take a 2-minute break. On va prendre une petite pause de 2 minutes, juste pour faire la transition. Et par après, on va continuer avec le deuxième panel. Pour ceux et celles qui ont participé dans le premier panel, vous êtes libre à rester en ligne, mais vous pouvez aussi regarder ça sur notre canal YouTube, alors on est en train de repartager cette session sur YouTube. Alors vous pouvez garder ça en ligne directement si vous voulez. When we come back, we will be meeting with a larger group from the Ontario Alliance of Black School Educators, from the Morris Training and Consultancy Services, from the Uzima Women International, Spelling Bee of Canada, Toronto East Seventh-day Adventist Church, the UBORA Education Services, les services d'éducation UBORA, Juliette's Place, A Different Booklist Cultural Center, Regional Association of West Quebecers, Votre Notaire, African Canadian Heritage Association, the Black Community Resource Center, the Vaughan African Canadian Association, and I hope I have it here, the Roots Community Services Incorporated. Perfect. Thank you very much. We'll see you in 2 minutes. Hi, folks. We're about to start up again. Before we begin, I will ask you once again if it is at all possible for you to please, when you have, please use any type of device that you could, earbuds, or if you have any of these microphone connectors, that would be great. These head masks. Secondly, if you do have the earbuds, can you please lift up the microphone to your mouth? Alors, je vais répéter ça en français. On va commencer, on va débuter prochainement. Pour ceux qui, j'insiste, c'est très important pour nos services d'interprétation. Si vous pouvez utiliser des écouteurs avec micro, si c'est possible, si vous avez ce qu'on appelle des earbuds, là, si vous pouvez monter le microphone tout près de votre bouche. Et troisièmement, si vous pouvez parler à un débit assez relax. Je sais que c'est très difficile à changer votre débit de parler, mais si vous pouvez juste ralentir un petit peu pour laisser les interprètes la chance de faire leur travail pour bien interpréter vos commentaires. So, with that, we are going to start up. Although I did list them last, that will go first is the Roots Community Services, Angela Carter or Andrew Randall. Are Angela or Andrew on the line?
Hi, this is Angela Carter, and it's Andrea, not Andrew, but that's fine. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had but what was written to me was Andrew. So it's Andrea. So forgive me, Ms. Randall.
That's okay. Thank you very much. I'm Angela Carter, the Executive Director of Roots Community Services here in Peel Region. And our ask really is when the federal government is allocating funds for that we want the federal government to allocate funds for capacity building in all calls for proposals. And this would allow Black organizations and businesses to develop critical infrastructure to ensure the viability and sustainability of their venture. What we find is funds are just allocated for direct services and no funds are allocated to help that organization or business to really build capacity that is so important for the success of that business or organization. And we believe that if we can develop a national database of Black professionals who are accessible to these leaders and are funded to do the work, that these organizations will be able to develop the business acumen that is so necessary and is lacking in our community. And I think that that's what we need, really capacity building so that we can be sustainable and viable and we can be able to be successful in what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Angela?
Greg, it's Adam Vaughan here.
Yes, please go ahead, Adam.
I have to do a virtual housing announcement in Hamilton, and so I will have you on in the background as I do my presentation in another part of the country. But please know that my staff is also listening in, so the note taking is continuing, and I'll be back as soon as we make some people in Hamilton a little happier.
Marvelous. Good. Thank you for letting us know. Thank you for letting us know. All right, moving on to the next group. It's the Ontario Alliance of Black School Educators, Alexis or Warren. I saw Warren on the line.
Oh.
Alexis, are you there or Warren?
You're frozen. I'm here. Can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay. I apologize that you can't see me.
No problem at all.
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead.
Right on.
Good afternoon, or good.
Oh, now I think we lost your audio as well.
Good morning. My name is Alexis Dawson, and I'm the Chair of Governance on the Ontario Alliance of Black School Educators.
Alexi, just because yes, we can
okay.
We can barely hear
I'm
you.
just gonna
Alexi, hold on for a sec. It's just because we have we're having some or I think you might be having some connection problems. I see your image. you might, we're gonna move to another person first, because it makes it really difficult when the sound is choppy or if the connection is bad for the interpretation. So I'm gonna ask that maybe while we go to the next speaker, we'll come back to you, but we'll ask that if you could perhaps close any other applications that you may have.
Okay.
Or if anybody else is in another you know, if they're downloading stuff,
You're
if you could
frozen,
ask them.
so I'm just going to mute myself.
All right. So then let us then jump to the next person. It's the Morris Training and Consultancy Service. Dr. Marilyn Morris. Is Dr. Morris here? Or sorry, Miriam Adam as well. We have you on two places.
Yes, it's me and Dr. Morris. So I'm going to let Dr. Morris start. She's on the call.
Great. Dr. Morris, if you could unmute yourself. Well, we're having some technical issues this morning.
All right. So then I'll start and then I'll let her finish. No problem.
All right.
We are from the Ontario Educational, and we are just looking to kind of like introduce the 21st century future skills, you know, for the youth need a mentorship, you know, coaching, identity, leadership, development, like what is next? Because most of the time, you know, there's no continuation, right? So we're just trying to see where for the personal skill to build, you know, the Black resilience life. And we want to show the people how, like where, how, and what, you know, to kind of like have a structure, professional, you know, development training, leadership and management, you know, and teaching, development training, social, emotional learning, you know, because of the culture sensitive too. So that's why we work together. Like it's kind of like Africa meets Caribbean, you know. So we have that. And with Dr. Marlene Morris, if she's on the line, she can manage to enhance more. And we already submit everything else. People can, we have a lot of information for the 21st century, and especially for the digital. And now it's pandemic, we have to know the skill to work on it. Thank you.
We do have your presentation here, and I think Dr. Morris is still having some difficulties joining. So we are going to move from there. Let's see if we can go back to Alexi Dawson. Alexi, I see your image, but you seem to be frozen still. Can you hear us? All right, let us then move to Uzima Women's Relief Group International, either Jacobette Bombai or Bobo Kyogonza.
Okay, I've unmuted myself. I hope you can hear me well.
We can hear you well and see you too, which is great.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And I'm very happy to be part of this conversation, because I've been talking in my area MP a lot. So he thinks about me, and I'm very glad that he invited me. So Uzima Women Relief Group International is a women-led group, Black-led, everything-led. And the word Uzima is a Kiswahili word from Eastern Africa. It means wellness. Yeah, so we mean well for everybody. I'll just jump into, okay, we do community work supporting disadvantaged communities, obviously mostly Black communities, continental Africans, even worse. So I'll just jump into some of the core issues that we have, or suggestions that we may have for the government. The first one being that we need core and program funding for Black-led, Black-focused, and Black-serving community-based organizations for women empowerment among the Black African and Caribbean, for women and youth, to address issues of racial discrimination violence in the community and workplace, and mental health issues. Because I'm speaking for nonprofits who we are really struggling financially, and this is a major reason we are struggling. There's no core funding to pay salaries for management and other staff. The second issue is that we suggest a comprehensive review of funding bodies to stop inequitable granting processes that alienate BBB organizations through stringent requirements they know very well may not be met by most BBB. A quick example is just like the transfer payment Ontario or federal system to get into, called One Key, to get in to just do an application, because it is taking like 5 days to just get to understand the system, and then you'll fail at the end anyway. And sometimes even government officers themselves cannot navigate the system. They give up, and after wasting a lot of your time, give it to you to send by email the application anyway. So it could just be by email straight away, or make that system user-friendly. Going along that, we suggest that review panels for granting applications have 50% Black people, 25% continental African, and 25% other Black, because to non-Black people, we are all the same, and they just think you come from one small village somewhere. And issues are very, very diverse and different. So if that can be done, we will be very grateful.
Perfect.
Going even up to the level of charitable status allocation, that the same be done.
Sorry to be relatively flexible on the timing, but unfortunately we've gone a little bit over. Do you want to just wrap up very quickly, or is that?
Okay, I'll let Bo just mention the third point, and then yeah, go from there. So Bo, please.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And we will come back to you. I see that Alexi Dawson has joined us, and the connection seems to be a lot more stable. So Alexi, do you want to give a presentation on behalf of the Ontario Alliance of Black School Educators?
Yes, thank you. And my apologies for that technical difficulty there. My name is Alexis Dawson. I'm the chair of governance on the Ontario Alliance of Black School Educators. I'm here today to urge the federal government to support Black students in accessing higher education by increasing post-secondary funding grants for Black students and providing $80 million for the program annually. We also ask that the federal government increase higher education research into the impact of systemic anti-Black racism on Black communities in Canada and put $30 million annually toward this program. We know from research by Professor Carl James at York University that 43.7% of Black students in the Toronto District School Board will be suspended at some point while they're attending public school. Black students are more likely to be streamed into applied and essentials programs in high school, limiting their ability to access a university education. According to Canadian researcher Robin Maynard, for many Black students, schools can be places of degradation, harm, and psychological violence. Because Black youth are so often not seen or treated as children, schools too often become their first encounter with the organized and systemic devaluation of Blackness present in society at large. On October 1st and 2nd, the University of Toronto and Canadian universities and colleges across the country came together to facilitate a national conversation to develop concrete actions for change in higher education and in our communities. We implore the federal government to provide funding to allow Canadian post-secondary institutions to delve more deeply into this research, to enable a more fulsome picture of systemic anti-Black racism in Canada and the impact on the outcomes of Black communities across the country. This will inform the strategic development of plans for addressing anti-Black racism in education and allow for realistic, time-sensitive, and measurable goals to be set. It will also inform similar initiatives in the criminal justice system, healthcare, and other sectors. Thank you.
Right on to 2 minutes on the nose. Thank you very much, Alexis. I'm wondering if, and thank you for that, if we can also go back, is Dr. Marilyn Morris, I saw that she was, I saw her connection during one of the presentations before. Dr. Morris, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you very much.
And
Go
I'm
ahead.
very sorry about not being able, I was getting computer issues, connection issues. But thank you very much for having us here today.
We all are familiar with for the last 8 months. So I think everybody's gonna be very generous on that front.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dr. Morris.
Thank you kindly. I'm Dr. Marilyn Morris, and I run Ontario College for Development Training and also Morris Training and Consultancy Service. I'm an educator. I'm a trained lawyer as well, curriculum developer, and strategic policy and planning expert. I work right across countries of the world, and right here in Canada, I'm about education and Black education beginning from the foundation level, because we are not going to change things unless we look at the foundation, how we train our children, right? From children and youth in terms of understanding social and emotional learning, as well as the partnership approach that we need to take between parents and teachers, as well as the students themselves. So this is a new paradigm we're proposing, right?
And your 3 recommendations.
And I think I do the 1 minute.
You have, if you want to very quickly, just give us a top line of your 3 recommendations.
Right. So we want to make sure that we can start with a knowledge hub for young people, from children and youth, to teach them foundational education and prepare them for 21st century learning and the relevant skills for the 21st century. We also look at the youth level for upskilling youth for this 21st century, because we're not turning back. And we have to understand that we need to begin at that level right now, especially with Black youth, so that they can come out of a mindset of lack to understanding a mindset of growth, and where they are focusing on who they are from their young right up, and the wraparound support that they should get. Looking at the education system, we have to help in partnership with government to make sure we can do that change. The teachers ought to be changing culturally relevant pedagogy, because our children get into the education system with their lived experience, and that has to be enrich the learning environment. It will help to put away this what we call anti-racism and that kind of thing, because we are building cultural relevance and competency skills as well. Perfect. So we have to start, and we are prepared to do that. The wraparound support, we need to train our parents as well in terms of that partnership with parents and school. So we are looking for funds to do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Morris. I really do appreciate that. Folks, we need to try to keep to the 2-minute limit so that we can make sure that we have enough time for some good questions and answers at the end. So I'd like to turn now to Spelling Bee of Canada. Is Julie Spence or Dr. Pamar Walter here on the call?
Hello, good morning. Yes, Julie Spence is here. Walter Byrne is going to be presenting.
Oh, marvelous.
Walter?
Sorry, just one moment.
Sorry about that.
No problem. And Walter,
okay, there he is.
Hi.
And just I will give you the 1 minute notice when you have 1 minute left. Go ahead, Walter.
Great, thank you. So good morning, everyone. I represent the Spelling Bee of Canada. We're an educational organizational charity serving children and youth since 1987. We're a Spelling Bee program, and we are involved in just developing youth literacy and vocabulary skills throughout our competition. We had 3 major priorities. Our first one was to increase investments in children and youth literacy programs. We, through our organization, have observed throughout our 33-year tenure the many benefits that a literacy program for youth provides, and this early engagement in a fun educational initiative and developing that love and enjoyment of learning, how that can benefit youth as they go throughout their academic career. Our second priority is to increase investments in technology access for children and youth from underprivileged areas. And this is especially poignant during the COVID-19 pandemic that we've all been living through. At least through our organization, we've seen how the relevance of physical distance, as well as the lack of financial, physical, digital capital, can cause some youth to be left behind. So there were initiatives, there were times in our path where we've had, for example, Aboriginal communities that have wanted to have greater involvement in our organization, but due to everything just mentioned, we weren't really able to engage with them to the best of our ability. And the lockdowns have prevented new and unique challenges for our youth. And so further technology access for youth and a platform, educational platforms, whether it's through Spelling Bee or otherwise, some type of other educational platform and hub is paramount. We need to be finding new initiatives, new creative initiatives to be supporting youth. They're spending a lot more time at home. They're more isolated from their communities, from their peers. And so finding something to address that.
Thank you, Walter. I appreciate that. Two very good priorities that you've presented. Let us move to Pastor Lawrence from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Toronto East.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'd like to just go straight to these recommendations, and maybe later on we could add to them. As a pastor, I have dealt with a lot of grief during this COVID period. I have seen how it's affected a lot of our people, young and old. And many of these families have suffered greatly because of the lack of counseling, and of course, as well as finance to support that. Sometimes such grief triggers, post-traumatic stress disorders. And some individuals, because they've lost their jobs during this period, they have no way of getting insurance coverage, and so on. Now, how can the government help us to, first of all, teach our people how to cope, not only now, but I guess also in the post-COVID times? And how can we get more funding to help people when they need to get counseling? Because that's an area that we are lacking. Second thing is that we're looking at how we can have sustainable long-term jobs. Now, we would like to have sustainable long-term jobs as many of the job programs that we see are only providing like 8 to 12 week employments. And so young people are let go after this funding is over, and they usually have just these jobs that are not as well paid, but they no longer have funds to supplement their income and to be able to do the things they want to do. What can the government do to help with better jobs for Black youth in our communities, and to help them to learn how to support themselves in these situations? And quickly, we need more community support workers. We need wider access to community support workers through schools and community centers. We find that many of our youth experience barriers to access services. There was a time you could go into the library and use computers. You can't really do that now because of COVID. They need to have help at home, where some homes don't have internet and don't have access to social media and so forth. So we're requiring more mentorship and guidance, and able to navigate the critical information that may out there about opportunities that are available to them. Many of these supports are not available unless the young person is in a court or have some problems going, and the justice system is involved, and that's where the problems are. So we want some help with technology, and we want help to be able to access the information that are out there, and we need to get this through government sources. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Pastor Lawrence. Moving quickly on to the UBOR Education Services, les services d'éducation UBORA. Courtney Fisher, I believe, is the representative for there, or is there someone else?
That's correct. I'm here.
Great, Courtney. Please go right ahead.
All right, thank you very much.
And 2 minutes to go.
Thank you. We believe it is important that positive change is shared across all social classes that comprise the Black communities. And we believe that Black nonprofit sector has a pivotal role to play in facilitating equitable change through the delivery of service in the areas of preconception and prenatal care, early childhood education, and ongoing learning from junior kindergarten to beyond. Regarding preconception and prenatal care, we believe that care should go beyond the required medical procedures to include sensitizing parents regarding the importance of a child's first 2,000 days as they relate to brain development, early learning, a readiness for school, the increased likelihood of academic success, and an embrace for lifelong learning. Regarding early childhood education, given the importance of the first 2,000 days, we believe a child's life, it's imperative for early childhood education opportunities to be made available to Black families. Regarding ongoing learning for junior kindergarten to beyond, support for nonprofit organizations that deliver educational services are essential. Some educational services supports delivered by Black nonprofits for Black students include numeracy, literacy, cultural specific learning. And finally, when parents are exposed to these preconception and prenatal information of the nature mentioned earlier, and when children are exposed to the early childhood education opportunities that mentioned earlier, nonprofits that deliver service to students from junior kindergarten to beyond will be spending their time delivering enrichment rather than remedial services. And that reality will represent a transformation for all Black families, all Black communities, and all social classes within the Black communities.
Thank you, Courtney. Appreciate that. Looking forward to the questions. We have the Homeward Family Shelter, also known as Juliet's Place, is Margaret Haynes on the call? Or is there a representative from the Homeward Family Shelter? All right. We have a different book list, Cultural Center.
Good morning, Honorable Ferguson. Thank you for the opportunity.
Just Greg, everybody, and it's also good to see you again. Please go ahead.
And good morning to all of my colleagues on this call. And I'm happy today that we are choosing forward as we are here to speak about the Black community's sustainability. I'm Ida Sadu and I represent a different book list, Cultural Center. We are located at the iconic intersection of Bathurst and Bloor, intergenerational and crosses the cultural industries. The piece that I'm going to put on the table, we would like the federal government to give us support in successfully attaining charitable numbers. It is a barrier in our efforts to fundraise. It is our barrier for us to get funds from philanthropists, and so the dependency on government. And so if there are ways where the federal government can assist us in that matter with all the accountability that there is, that is something that we would like to consider. I have with me today my colleague, Pam Campbell, who is on the line, and she is going to raise the other issue that we are addressing. Over to you, Pam.
Ms. Campbell, you have 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. So in 1 minute, we'd like to put on the table the area around capital funding. We talk about infrastructure across the Black community, across this country, really important. And so while, and as Ita mentioned, we're in the cultural sector, while the federal government does have the Cultural Spaces Fund that we can access, they'll support up to 50% or sometimes up to 75%. We're hoping that the capital infrastructure within the Black community through some of the programs are able to provide the matching support for that. While we have just rolled out SBCCI, which is the Supporting Black Communities Initiative, that came in at $100,000 for capital. If you're talking big renovations, doing real work in construction, $100,000 doesn't get too far. So we really need to look at more meaningful amounts that can really move us along. Secondly, the other area, someone mentioned it earlier.
Very quickly if you can. Very quickly if you can.
Yes, very quickly. It is core funding, core funding, core funding. You need, when you want organizations to be effective, you need to be able to support appropriate management, financial systems, bookkeeping, those sorts of things. They are the backbone of a good, strong organization. So need more of it, not enough within the sector. There it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very well done. The Regional Association of West Quebecers, an organization I know very well, Linton Garner.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you well, but Linton, if it's possible, if you have, we'll give you a few seconds. If you have a microphone, if you could hold it. I think you haven't selected your microphone to be on your.
Is this better?
No, we're picking up your computer microphone, not your actual microphone that you have. So if you go down onto the bottom left of your screen under the microphone icon where it says mute, there's a little arrow or a chevron to the right of it. If you click on it, you'll have a microphone. You can select which microphone you're using. It says select a microphone, and you'd want to pick the one that, it might be your headset microphone, it might be.
Microphone headset.
If you pick that one, it should. This is an important lesson for everybody, if you can, is to making sure you're selecting the right microphone feature so that it helps our translators be able to hear. Linton, while you work that out, and there's also a thing we could test it. I'm gonna move to the next one. We'll come back to you. So let's go over to Véronique Semeksa comme notaire. Véronique, est-ce que vous êtes là? Oh, voilà. Ok, on va passer à the African Canadian Heritage Association. Is Akwatu there? Akwatu Kenti? All right. Then we will, this is another pillar of the community, Dr. Clarence Bain from the Black Community Resource Center, the Secretariat of the Black Community Forum in Quebec. Yes. Dr. Bain.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well. Again, if it were at all possible that you have a headset or
no, I don't.
All right. Well, then, if you could just speak at a good pace, so that our interpreters can hear you. Go ahead.
I want to start really from where the last person said. It is core funding, core funding, core funding, core funding. It is clear that I don't have enough time to tell you what we are doing in Quebec, actually, but I can tell you that the way in which the country is structured and the way powers are divided and the fragmentation across the country does not, everything that everyone else is saying is relevant to the region they're in. It is good to know. It is good for us to exchange information and to learn from each other, but it really comes back down to what the particular region we are in is going to allow and how they're going to function. We are operating in a situation here in Quebec where the English-speaking Canada, so to speak, has reached a certain compromise. And as I put it, and many of us put it, they allow Quebec to discriminate against all other non-French-speaking peoples of historical French-speaking peoples in favor of the promotion of the French language and culture. So that means that we have to operate within a certain context. The problem that we have here is we need to be able to convince the federal government. The federal government need to understand and be very active in how they allocate resources to Blacks in Quebec. Because in the school system, for instance, I can talk to my friends in Ontario about education, but when I come to Quebec, I am conditioned by the fact that we have something called Bill 101. We have to do it ourselves here. But we don't have the resources to create the infrastructures to allow us in a very consistent way to interact with our government here and to represent Black people here. So I'm saying to what we would like to see, therefore, is a more equitable and meaningful sort of allocation of core funding to Blacks in Quebec. We do pretty well in terms of our own innovativeness, where we don't have the infrastructure to allow us to do it consistently. And that is what the situation is. Everything you have said that about how your new technology and methodologies and teaching, all of that is relevant, but it's only relevant in terms of how we negotiate with our government. Perfect. So I guess we'll be able to come back to those things in more detail later on, but that's the problem that we have here.
Thank you, Dr. Bain. I really do appreciate that. Let's go back to Linton Garner from the Regional Association of West Quebecers. Linton, I hope we've worked out that microphone, and if it doesn't, then we will try some way to. We'll ask you to speak at a good clip. All right, if you could just unmute yourself, and then we can go from there. Here we go. I believe you're unmuted now. His audio's not connected. I think I might have made things worse with you, Linton. Oh, here you go. We had a check mark at one point. So if you could just unmute yourself one more time, and then I think we're going to be good. Oh no. All right, Linton. So I'm going to. So unfortunately for our translators, our interpreters, could you just pull the microphone, and then we'll go with your computer mic. I'm going to ask one of our folks to give you a call, Linton, while we move to the next association. So I'm going to ask that we go to the Vaughan African Canadian Association. Is Shernette Martin or Joanne Conan?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. If because you're on again a computer mic, we're just going to ask you to make sure that your pace is right, which is of course tricky because you have only 2 minutes.
Sure, no problem. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Fitzroy Gordon. I'm representing Shernette Martin, our Executive Director, as part of the Vaughan African Canadian Association. So we have one significant question that we'd like to ask. I'd just like to read what our organization would like to ask. The Black community is tethered to generational trauma. There's empathy that occurs when discussions around racism and injustice focus on white collective consciousness, white privilege, and systemic racism. Several political leaders have dismissed systemic racism as a figment of our imaginations. Others have gone to support using the N-word in academic settings, claiming there is linguistic merit in the use of such violent and racially charged words. In order to raise the cultural IQ for those who are not used to discussions around race and race-based trauma, we have to tackle it from a gradual and palatable level. Since the death of George Floyd, we are in a transformational period where we need to provide an antidote to an ill that has been allowed to fester in society that has plagued us for far too long. Our organization believes that in order to begin the heavy work of dismantling racism, hate, and oppression, we need to provide places and spaces for the healing to work. Therefore, we're asking for a budgetary support for an African Canadian community and cultural center in York Region, preferably in Vaughan. During the lockdown, we found out the city of Vaughan was named after a slave owner named Benjamin Vaughan, and this city was given this name by John Graves Simcoe, who rewarded Benjamin Vaughan for his financial success as an enslaver. Knowing what we know about who Benjamin Vaughan was, we felt that it would be most fitting to have the first African Canadian community and cultural center outside of Toronto located in the city of Vaughan. We have created a deposition and brought it to the matter to the City Council of Vaughan, where it was stalled. It's been stalled. As we near the close of the decade for people of African descent, it is imperative that we leave a legacy and infrastructure for the next generations. We need to see more brick and mortar spaces for the Black community, to have a program space, offer services, and educate, celebrate our heritage and culture. Will you support infrastructure building for this community hub and cultural center? Although that we said that we are named the Vaughan African Canadian Association, which we've been named for 17 years, as you can see on the right, we're in the process of changing our name, and that will be a rollout in the near future to Anchor. Thank you very much for your time and for listening to us.
We can't hear you, Mr. Fergus.
That's because I have my mute on. So thank you very much for that presentation. And we are going to, I know that our technical people, our IT people are speaking with the Regional Association of West Quebecers. So I think we're going to move them to the next panel. Oh, we can try Linton. All right, I think we might have some success here. So Linton Garner, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yeah, is that better now?
That is much better. That is much better.
Well, thank you very much for having us, and excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, for the technical difficulties. First of all, the Regional Association of West Quebecers is an organization which serves the English-speaking population here in Quebec. We serve 70,000 English speakers within our territory of Outaouais, which is the size of Belgium. I do want to underscore Clarence Bain's remarks about being a part of a minority within a minority, being a minority within a minority. The Official Languages Act, as it supports minority linguistic communities across the country, does not support ethnic minority groups within the English-speaking population within Quebec. There needs to be more opportunity and more support that's given to the English-speaking population who are from minority communities within that population to help them deal with the issues that they do, and specifically the Black community. Now, I support the issues that were brought up by Ms. Dawson and Ms. Morris around the education issue as well. We reach out and work with the Black Community Council of Gatineau and the Accompagnement des Femmes Immigrantes d'Outaouais here in the area, both which have, a majority, have a lot of Black populations, and the difficulties within the educational system that are faced by those parents and their children. As Ms. Dawson said, 43% of her students will be, kicked out of schools. Well, we see similar numbers here in Quebec, and there needs to be more support right through the public system before we get to the post-secondary education. I coach basketball at Heritage College and with the Ottawa Phoenix Development Program in Ottawa. And we have difficulties. Those young people who come through the system, particularly boys, are not prepared educationally to be able to move on to secondary, to post-secondary education. There needs to be much greater support for that. The community as well needs to have support around the development of social enterprises, particularly around housing, so that there can be opportunities for the communities, for people to start to be able to get access to affordable housing within the community. As we know, we have a very fast growing community here. Condo development is on the rise, and there is less and less social housing or space for affordable housing for members of the Black community. And as well, finally, we need to have more opportunity for support. We give French second language courses to over 200 people in our community online every week. And we need to be able to have more support for minority linguistic communities to be able to have access to those kinds of services as well. I'm sure Jean-Marie, when he talked about the Francophone population in Ontario as a minority linguistic community, also needs that support. So thank you very much. Hopefully we can address those issues more concretely, particularly in the alternative budget that was talked about by Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much, Linton. I do appreciate that. Folks, we're pressed for time, but I just want to make sure that if we can, Akwatu Akenti from the African Canadian Heritage Association, is there a representative from the African Canadian Heritage Association? Well, then seeing none, we're going to move to the questions part. So thank you all for making presentations. Now we're opening this up for questions from our parliamentarians as well. We will have questions from each other. I'll ask folks to please raise the little blue hand, which can be accessed by the participant under the participant icon at the bottom of the page. If you click on that, it will also show your name, and you could raise or lower your hand if you have a question. So the first question, which I would like to raise, and there are a whole bunch, but going back to, if we can go back to the Ubora Education Services, Courtney, we noticed that in your written presentation, you talked about the importance of, defining violence as a health concern, with an eye to reducing violence through the application of proven strategies to, for defunding the police. You didn't mention that in your oral presentation. I was just wondering if there's a reason why. Was it a lack of time, or do you have some thoughts on this that you would like to share?
Well, I think for sure it was a lack of time.
Okay.
A lot of these areas have. I felt that a lot of other folks will be speaking to the issue of police and violence, and so we felt that it was important for us to spend the time looking at early childhood education. So we had put that off because I felt we were fairly confident that a lot of other folks would have gotten to that issue.
Perfect. So it still is an important file for you to raise. So it's important for us to have these things said, but I want to make sure about that. The second question, which I have, is to Dr. Bain rather. The two big points that you raised, of course, was the importance of having core funding and having equitable allocation of core funding. I was wondering if you would want to just talk a little bit more about and a number of you have mentioned about the importance of core funding. We know that the federal government can play a very strong role in this. Do you have any positive experiences with core funding? And this is not only to you, Dr. Bain, but other participants, about core funding which have come from provincial governments?
From provincial government. Provincial government was only recently set up a system for funding English-speaking minorities on what's called the Secretariat for Relation with English-Speaking Quebecers. And I can tell you that if an organization gets about $400,000 over a period of 3 years with about $150,000 it requires a significant part of it goes towards auditing. And in most of these Black and other minority institutions, it means completely restructuring your organization because you didn't have to audit before because you didn't have adequate funding. So a large part of it goes towards. From the federal government, however, the funding tends to be for projects. And a project may last for 3 months, 6 months, a year, maybe 2 years. At the end of that, they move on to something else. So you set up a support system and a service based on funding from them for a project that the community becomes dependent upon because they need it. It's like sustenance, they need it. And then you can't provide it afterwards. The other thing about it is that the funding tends to limit what you pay, or you go to the market and you can't compete for the available kind and resources that you need. You're paying an executive director who had a university education and competence to run the country almost, that $40,000, well, and he or she can get a job if hired in a white sector for $70,000, $80,000. So while we are working on releasing the tendency for discrimination against us, we are competing at the same time with the organizations that we have convinced to hire our people. We are offering 40,000 and they're offering 70,000. So we are in a continuous situation of inadequate supply. Right.
I'm wondering if Edith or with Aita would have some views on core funding as well. Both of you was a strong part of your presentations. I was wondering if you would like to add on to what Dr. Bain had mentioned. Pam, I see also you have your hand up for that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't have my hand up. So.
No, I'm asking you.
Oh, okay. I have to figure out how to raise my hand. So thank you. Just quickly, yes, as my colleagues are pointing out, that was my first point, almost the only one, co-funding. Co-funding meaning salaries that the senior management of organizations will depend on, and the structure as well. And then, like I said, a comprehensive review of the funding bodies to remove stringent requirements that BBB cannot meet. If that is not possible, then have a separate pool of funding for BBB where review panels represent, Black people are represented on the review panels and speak, and their opinions be heard, not just to sit there. I've sat on very high level panels where my views have been kind of suppressed, or until somebody who is not of my color repeats exactly what I've said, that is noted down. So those are some of the basic things that are really hurting us as we speak on this panel. I don't know if Bo can just say quickly something. Sorry, Bo.
Well, I'm going to just ask Aita and then Pam to intervene on this point.
Okay, thank you.
Aita, you just need to unmute yourself.
Pam, I'm going to defer to you.
Okay.
Okay,
thank
great.
You. Great. Just on the area of core funding, I think you asked whether there were examples, of, good practices out there. And so while we recognize that core funding is a challenge for all levels of government, and that comes from the fact that you're supporting, the backbone or the infrastructure, of an entity, and you're doing it over the longer term. And so, for many funders, it continues to be a challenge. I will also say that within specific programs within government, and I can only certainly speak, for the federal government as well as within Ontario, that, specific programs may then provide core funding, and you see it across whether it's, immigration or settlement services, child and welfare services, those kinds of things. And so, as well as with United Way, they're a big organization, as you know, that do provide core funding for organizations. So those are sort of good practices. The other pieces that you also want to look at, if one says, we can't support you over the longer term and it continues to be an issue, then the model then needs to come from, if you're providing project funding, there needs to be a proportion of that money that is directed towards your core administration. That program won't happen if you don't have the infrastructure, that building, building occupancy, you're still got to pay the rent, you've got to pay the utilities and have the space to be able to deliver those things. And so for some funders, what they may then do is say that, okay, we give you project funding to deliver X, you can use up to 25% of that towards your core admin, which is the financial management of the org, those who are supervising. I heard Mr. Bain talk about the competition that then says you want strong, effective Black-led organizations, but those who've got the skills or the expertise, you then find them in, whether it's government or private sector, delivering at that level, and you get into the community-based or not-for-profit sector, and you have limited salaries that you're able to able to offer. Part of how you try to address that issue is certainly if you can ensure that you've got professional development dollars built in, if you do ongoing capacity building, and I'll name that because that has shown up as one of the areas that the Supporting Black Communities Initiative is looking at. And so while they've put out the call for grant, applications up to 45,000, they've identified you can only pay professional fees. Again, we've gone to the idea that, bring in consultants, let them do the work, and strengthen the organization. But again, we're not supporting the ongoing infrastructure to be able to effectively deliver services. That means you're talking about whether it's the executive directors managing an organization. It's talking about good HR practices. It's talking about financial management and those sorts of things. So
it's a number of people have raised also the importance of capital funding, one which we know that organizations tend to survive changes in leadership when they have four walls and a roof. So the importance of having capital funding as well. So we see the importance of both capital and core funding. I'd like to turn it over to Chandra Arya, the Member of Parliament from Nepean. Chandra.
Thanks, Greg. Linton Garner and Dr. Clarence Bain, thank you so much for bringing the issues of minorities within minorities. This is of a great concern. Thank you so much for raising it. And Dr. Bain, I do understand the time limit that you mentioned when it comes to the federal funding. I know we need to have a generous long-term funding there. And if there's anything that we can do, please do get back to us outside of this pre-budget consultation. If something else that we need to do in the longer term, please do get in touch with us. And I see Francis L. there from South Sudanese community. Francis, is there anything specific ask from you for this upcoming budget?
Well, why don't we do this? Francis, we're going to, if you stay on the line, in the third panel, we'll give you an opportunity to make your presentation. We know that you had missed an earlier opportunity, but we'll get you to make a full 2-minute presentation in the third panel, which is coming up shortly. Would that be all right? All right. I have a question from Adam Vaughan then.
Sorry I had to jump away for a housing announcement, which was fantastic. We overachieved in Hamilton, which is nice. But while I sort of monitored the conversation here, I'm trying to model around this concept of salary and the discount that is sort of brokered into serving the community. It came up yesterday in the context of health. Where we have a very strong legion of Black and African Canadian healthcare workers, but they're working in the service of the general community instead of applying their talents to self-care in their own communities. And one of the issues that was raised there as well was this notion of I can make more money at a major hospital than I can at a local health clinic, and therefore I have to respond to the needs of my family and my professional development. And all of a sudden you see skill sets drifting away from the community when they could actually be reinvested into the community. Has that sort of notion of a discount in terms of resources and in terms of salary, has it been quantified anywhere in terms of what the wage gaps are between an accountant working within a social service agency within someone with a business degree working? Is there any way of quantifying that so that we could build models that would top up wages to attract and sustain leadership talent? And I guess that's Pam and raised the issue. So I'd be interested to hear Pam Campbell's thoughts on that, amongst others, if I missed anybody.
Yeah, I would like to comment too, if it's possible.
Please.
If we were just to talk about the Outaouais region here, and just a primary example, we have the young nurses graduating from our CJEP here at college level, and they don't stay in this region because they pay $10,000 more a year in Ontario than they do in Quebec. So we're losing young Black nurses in the health system, which would help a lot, particularly in terms with growing elder population that we have here, and being able to give them services and being able to relate to both people in the Black community in terms of their dietary needs, their functions, their just a whole awareness of their cultural backgrounds and what they need to make them feel comfortable within a system. So even if we just look at it from that standpoint, there are discrepancies within the system which prohibit or which inhibit young Blacks from participating even in those systems that do pay fairly well. Third, and then secondly, if you are going to be able to try to attract the better talent, we also compete with the federal government here, because the opportunities are there for young people to go into the public service, and that leaves a dearth of talent to be able to work in the community. And so without core funding, without being able to address just the idea about administration, leadership, governance, to development, without that separate part for the community organizations, we won't be able to attract those talented young people who are coming out of college with their MBAs now in particular, and they will go elsewhere. And the leadership within the community will suffer because of it, and then in community because they need to have new and innovative leadership to help lead the way. So just on that level alone.
Pam?
Yes, absolutely. So while I can't give you any info related to stats, what I will say that for Black-led organizations or organizations predominantly out of the Black community, you tend to probably be operating on more of a shoestring sort of budget compared to mainstream organizations. And so while you have the ability to attract talent and highly skilled individuals in that they are interested in the work you do, feel it's valuable, and feel that there's a good match. When you, look at the economics and family supports, you then end up working for mainstream organizations, whether that's in healthcare or any other sector for that matter. And so there's a real divide in terms of being able to attract people at a certain salary level, and so you can spend years building and giving those skills, to other organizations, while the need may be great, much greater in, some of the communities, that are served within the Black community. But in the end, sometimes it's an economic decision folks have to make. And again, when we getting back to the piece around core administration or operational funding, the other model, is then, okay, then maybe you look at multi-year funding. And so you can't make the ongoing long-term commitment, as a funder that does core support. But how about you do multi-year funding, similar to the Ontario Trillium Foundation? And so you make a commitment over 3 years, we're prepared to do this. It then allows to strengthen the organization, allows them to build their capacity and, the knowledge in their staff and board. And it also then allows them to also build their fundraising capacity. I think Ita, earlier talked about the charitable status that then allows you to go out and be able to access donations, because of course, there are donors out there, private and public, that are certainly interested in supporting you. But again, you need to be able to compete at a particular level. You need to be able to have the staff people in place to be able to deliver and dedicate their time to the marketing aspect, to the fundraising aspect, which always tends to be very different than we're doing the service delivery itself. And so you really need to ensure you have a backbone of services and programs and the operations to be able to deliver at that particular level. And you can look directly at the mainstream organizations in any of the sectors and see how they've managed to sustain themselves over the long term.
Thank you very much, Pam. And thank you all. Unfortunately, we are really cut tight for time. We're going to have to move on to our third panel. We're going to take another 2-minute break. So you are free to stay on, and I encourage the folks who are going to be making a third panel, if you can please take the opportunity to prepare yourselves by having, if at all possible, headphones, or if you have the earbuds, please do that, and make sure that your microphone is selected. You can do that by going to the bottom left of your screen. There is a microphone icon, and beside it there's a little arrow. Just click on that arrow and then select the appropriate microphone and headphone selection so that we can have good quality audio connection for our translators. So we are going to move on to the next panel. We'll be starting in about a minute and a half at 10:46. So we'll see you in a couple of seconds. Thank you.
Dr. Bain.
Yeah.
I just want to say hello and acknowledge you, and also read the report of what happened with your annual general meeting, and just to tell you how I'm sure shocked is the right word,
you mean
but
on,
just
on the West
appalled.
Island, at the West
Yeah.
Island. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
That's
very
very shocking. Very shocking. Yeah.
The boldness of really abhorrent and disrespectful, but also mean, angry
See, they encourage
racism.
I hope it makes the point to our dear Premier that there is systemic racism, and there is, and it is not just a question of a few odd characters here and there. It's in the whole nature. I don't know. It's this fear of others.
Yeah.
Or whether it is the brain has been frozen into the concept of race superiority. I don't know what it is, but it's there. And
the worrisome thing is incidents like that. The evil is there, but if you had the opportunity to unpack who those people are, you'd also find that they work inside the school system, they work inside a hospital, they work inside
everywhere.
They're everywhere, and that's when it becomes systemic. It's not the
but
horror.
Then they can hide behind the whole question of language. They hide behind the languages, because in any language, you don't learn the language except by working in the language.
Mm-hmm.
If I go into a new discipline in education at the university or in the community, I have to learn the language. Although I've been speaking English since I was born.
No, I hear you. It's.
So, but I could discriminate against someone that is outside of, that I perceive to be outside my clan, and simply saying, well, you don't understand the language, but they can learn the language as they become engaged. So it's sustain all these things. And
all right.
Fortunately,
sorry to interrupt this really good conversation, but we're under the tyranny of the clock.
Yeah.
So
anytime you have Dr. Bain at your disposal, it's a chance to learn. So thank you.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I think we could say that of every participant who is here today. We've really benefited from your collective knowledge and experience, and we hope that the report will be reflective of a little bit of your of what you've been able to contribute. So we've now moving on to the third panel, and the last panel for this morning, and then we'll start again at around 1:30 today. This again, we'll be inviting you to speak for 2 minutes, please. I'll be putting up my finger to let you know that you have 1 minute left. And if you folks, if we can keep to that as much as possible, because as we saw in the last panel, last two panels. There are a lot of questions that we would like to have and a good discussion that we'd like to have, but it makes it difficult. We have to shorten that if we take too long in our presentations. So starting off, and I'll just give you the order in which we'll speak. On va commencer avec le Centre Chica, avec Pacifique Manire Kiza ou Pamela Mubeza. On va passer deuxièmement au Black Muslim Initiative avec Ayan Abdoulay. Then we will go to the South Sudanese Community Association with Francis Yel. We'll go to the Tipping the Scales of Justice, and that will be with Yvette Blackburn. On va passer à la Fondation Sylvanie Lindor avec Amiclé Fontaine. Then we will go to the African Art and Cultural Community Contributor, and that will be with Pulkeri Mbusi. We will have Evelyn Amiri make a presentation, and then we will go to the African Canadian Association of Ottawa, the Nunavut Black History Society, the Smart Tutor and Translator. Then we'll have the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the Vancouver Fountain Chapel, the Black Youth Helpline, Monique's Counseling and Consulting Services, the Media Company with Ed Gao Jr., and then I Am, I Can, I Will be rounding it off at the very end. So let's start off with le Centre Chica avec Pacifique ou Pamela.
Merci, honorable Fergus. Le Centre Chica précise.
C'est juste Greg, mais merci beaucoup.
OK, d'accord. Merci, Greg. Le Centre Chica apprécie bien sûr cette initiative du caucus des parlementaires noirs de consulter les membres de la communauté. Ça, c'est bien sûr de la démocratie en action. Alors, nous ferons la présentation à deux plutôt, et je passe la parole à Pamela Mubeza.
Bonjour, je vous présente le Centre Chica qui est...
Pamela, est-ce que c'est possible si vous pouvez rapprocher le micro plus près de votre bouche, s'il vous plaît?
D'accord. Est-ce que
merci.
Maintenant, c'est bien?
Oui, c'est mieux.
OK. Je vous disais que le Centre Chica est une organisation qui aide effectivement dans l'intégration des immigrantes et immigrants au sein de la communauté canadienne, donc pour les immigrants d'origine burundaise. Et nos axes d'intervention prioritaires qui pour nous devraient coïncider avec les priorités budgétaires du gouvernement sont premièrement l'assistance aux personnes âgées et l'éducation numérique, et puis l'appui aux jeunes qui voudraient s'impliquer en politique. Pour nos aînés, il s'agit d'une catégorie de personnes vraiment vulnérables, et surtout en cette période de pandémie. Et culturellement, les personnes âgées de notre communauté sont des personnes très sociables et qui s'adaptent vraiment très mal à la nouvelle situation de confinement et autres mesures qui prônent la distanciation. Donc, il serait important pour nous vraiment de penser à augmenter des subventions pour des organismes qui interviennent dans ce domaine, car ces personnes aînées s'appuient essentiellement sur ce genre d'organisation.
Et s'agissant de l'éducation numérique, la pandémie nous oblige bien sûr en tant qu'organisation à opérer un virage vers le numérique. Et pour ce faire, on s'est rendu compte des inégalités numériques qui en fait sont le reflet des inégalités sociales. Et on sait que ces inégalités contribuent bien sûr à renforcer le fossé qui existe entre les favorisés et les défavorisés du système. Et c'est ainsi que le Centre Chica a fait de l'éducation numérique une autre priorité pour s'assurer que les bénéficiaires accèdent aux services nécessaires
and
et aux
squeeze,
autres
squeeze the
opportunités
air.
dans des conditions
Okay,
égales.
flip it, give it a
Car
good
nous
smack.
croyons que l'accès à la
No,
technologie
not like that, like-
doit être constitué en droit et non pas en privilège.
Got it.
Et finalement, étant donné
Rapidement, s'il vous plaît.
vulnérabilité-
Rapidement, s'il vous plaît, pour se lire.
Étant donné la vulnérabilité des jeunes noirs face aux nous explorons présentement la possibilité de mettre en place un programme à donner des formations aux jeunes sur leur éducation élémentaire, ainsi que les
Merci beaucoup, Pacifique. Merci beaucoup, Pamela. J'apprécie énormément. On va passer maintenant à the Black Muslim Initiative. I think Ayan Abdullah is representing today, or perhaps there's someone else.
Yes, hello, bonjour. My name is Ayan. My pronouns are she and her. I am representing today for the Black Muslim Initiative. We are a registered nonprofit organization, based within the city of Toronto, and we focus specifically on addressing issues and providing services for folks that reside at the intersection of anti-Black racism and Islamophobia. The issues that confront individuals and families within this demographic often mirror those of the broader Black community as well as the Muslim community, albeit in unique and complex ways. Based on our research, advocacy, and organizing experience, we've come to identify different challenges that are germane to this specific population and therefore confront decision makers within the public and private institutions in multiple ways. So, for example, unique exposure to both Islamophobia and anti-Black racism within the general population, exposure to anti-Black racism within the minority Muslim community, so a minority within the minority, unique exposure to stigmatization by law enforcement, institutions with history of anti-Black racism and Islamophobia, especially post-September 11th environment, precarious socioeconomic status, a lack of institutional capacity and resources outside of the traditional religious and mosque environments, lack of understanding of the unique identity challenges and mental health dynamics of youth, specifically between the ages of 15 and 29, that identify as both Black and Muslim. And we also have a relatively new population group with aging adult population and lack of appropriate family resources or retirement options. So we're essentially looking for federal support for core funding because we recognize that in order for us to have the maximum capacity as well as provide maximum impact, we really need the federal government support in providing thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayan. I do appreciate that. And I just also mentioned it for the Q&As. I don't know if you intended to, and I didn't want to interrupt, but if you wanted to turn on your camera, feel free to do that as well. And we will certainly have a version of eye contact. I'd like to go to Francis Yell for the South Sudanese Community Association of Canada. Francis. Votre micro, vous êtes en sourdine.
You hear me now?
Very, very faintly. You wouldn't happen to have earbuds and a microphone, would you? Or a headset?
Okay, let me get it.
Sure, we'll come back to you in the next one if you can get that. Thank you.
Yeah.
If we don't mind, if we could go to Yvette Blackburn for tipping the scales of justice. Is Yvette here? Or anyone from Tipping the Scales of Justice equal? Fine. Anyone from La Fondation Sylvanie Lindor? Ami-Clé Fontaine ou André Venard? All right. The African Art and Cultural Community Contributor Incorporated. Pulcheri Mboussi?
Oui, bonjour, je m'appelle Dominique Mackay.
Ah, bonjour Dominique.
Je vais parler on behalf of Pulchery. C'est the African, the Act Society is an organization based in Victoria. I apologize, but I'll be switching between French and English just because that's
Pas de problème. Mais la seule chose que je vais vous demander, juste de rapprocher le micro à votre bouche, s'il vous plaît. Merci.
Est-ce que c'est mieux comme ça?
Ça, c'est beaucoup mieux.
Ok, excellent. Alors, donc, on est une organisation qui évolue dans un contexte minoritaire, non seulement linguistique, mais aussi racial, puisque en Colombie-Britannique, la majorité des personnes de African descent sont généralement des immigrants. Et pour cette raison, on a des difficultés supérieures au-delà de ces difficultés qui sont souvent mises sous la sellette. Un exemple commun, c'est les difficultés d'immigration qui constituent en soi un mode de discrimination systémique très peu mentionné. Et par rapport aux efforts de notre organisation en ce moment, nous avons mis en place un comité pour supporter le Decade pour les personnes d'ascendance noire. Et ce comité est en train de travailler de façon assez chevronnée pour faire reconnaître et mettre en place un plan d'action pour les personnes d'ascendance noire à l'ouest du Canada. Et une des plus grandes priorités pour notre organisme, justement, c'est de voir des financements plus ou moins orientés vers l'ouest, car on peut remarquer par les résultats de ce qui a été fait jusque-là qu'à l'ouest, la mise en place d'un cadre stratégique pour appuyer les personnes d'ascendance noire est encore en train de traîner, et en grande partie parce que les organismes de l'Ouest ont beaucoup de mal à recevoir un financement. Donc, notre première recommandation et notre recommandation la plus importante, ce serait de mettre en place un cadre, un cadre de financement axé spécifiquement sur les organismes à l'Ouest. Et donc, ce serait un peu ça pour nous. En dehors de ça, naturellement, il faudrait qu'on voit une politique plus étendue où le gouvernement fédéral se rapproche des gouvernements provinciaux pour les encourager justement à mettre en place ces cadres de façon assez soutenue également. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Dominique. C'était excellent. C'est presque 2 minutes. C'était juste parfait. Et merci de nous rejoindre de bonne heure de Victoria. I'm going to go to Evelyn Miri, then I'm going to go to Francis. Just give him a chance. I just see that he's come back into the screen. Just give him a chance to get his earphones and microphone working. So Evelyn, are you here? All right. Do we have John Idefa from the African Canadian Association of Ottawa? I thought I saw John earlier. All right. The Nunavut Black History Society. Is Stephanie Bernard or Milton Grace here? Well, we're going to have a lot of time for questions, which is good. Is a representative from Smart Tutor and Translator here? What about the AME Church, Vancouver, Fountain Chapel? Andrew Matuma? I feel like a comedian in front of a tough audience. Is this thing working? All right, Francis, do you think you're good to go? Francis Yell, if you could just unmute yourself, and we'll see if we can how this works. Can we unmute from this end? If you go to the bottom left of your screen, Francis, there's there you go. Can we?
Yeah, you hear me now?
Can you say a few words?
Yeah, you hear me?
Very, very poorly.
Very poorly, huh? You hear me now?
I know you're speaking, but it wouldn't be enough for our interpretive services.
Okay. You hear me now?
Unfortunately not. Francis, we're going to have one of our technical people give you a telephone call. I hope we have do we have his number? Great. So one of our folks are going to give you a telephone call and they'll walk you through this process. All right?
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Good. Sorry, is there a representative from the Black Youth Helpline? Barbara Thompson? What about Monique's Counseling and Consulting Services? Monique Abbott.
Yes, hello.
Can you mute his? Is Ed Gao there?
Yeah.
And what about a representative from I Will?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Tammy. Could you speak a little louder, or could you put the microphone closer to your mouth?
Yes, I'll put in my headphones.
That would be great.
Can you hear me now?
It's marginally better, but if you speak loudly and slowly, I think we might be able to work it out.
Okay, perfect. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Temi Atkinson. I'm an undergrad at Queen's University in Kingston, and I co-run a nonprofit foundation called I Am, I Can, I Will with my brother Tifa, a Laurier student, and my sister Olympia, a film director. So as Blacks, we do not have one singular story, but instead a collage of stories. And with this, we have 3 asks, which include a richer Black history in the school curriculum, and to allocate more money, which would provide grants for the school system, to hire Black consultants who would go into schools and educate the students about Black history. And so with this, you have a 3-pronged solution to help Queen's University in Kingston. With this, we have 3 asks and a 3-pronged solution to help our community. The first being incorporating a complete Black history component into the school system. The second, to allocate more money to fund grants for these purposes. And the third, which in turn provides job opportunities for Black businesses. So I'm going to hand it over to Nene Atkinson to complete the presentation, as I have an exam coming up shortly. But thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for making time. Good luck to you in your exam. Knock it dead.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Tammy. So basically, Tammy has talked about the 3 things we want, and which is around the fact that in Canada, in the Canadian school system, there is no little or no complete history around for Blacks. So we have the Underground Railroad and we have some of the other stuff, but as a Nigerian Canadian, Tammy and others do not see anything that reflects historical context of other Black countries. So this is why we are asking for more incorporation of a complete Black history component into the school system and allocation of more money to fund grants for these purposes, which in turn will provide job opportunities for Black businesses who would bid for these consultancy services. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nini. I do appreciate, and we'll get back to you in a second. I see that John Adefa is here from the African Canadian Association of Ottawa. John, I noticed you don't have a set of headphones, so you're going to have to speak slowly and very clearly. Can we just have a little microphone check?
Testing, testing, testing.
All right, so if you could just get as close to the microphone on your computer as possible, then you can, away we go. Go ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Greg, for the opportunity. I'd just like to emphasize more on what my colleague have said earlier. We are requesting that the caucus to consider making capital investment in establishing in the National Capital Region an African Center of Excellence of heritage, culture, and arts, a multipurpose center to symbolize our past struggles and future hopes. We are looking at establishing a legacy and a milestone, something tangible to show for this United Nations decade. It will be something great to have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. You have a bit of time still left over if you wanted to just talk. Just if you have about 30 seconds, if you want to talk about what the African Centre in the National Capital Region would do. What would be its main objectives?
It will serve as a hub to have all the services of business hub, to have like a museum to showcase all our history, artifacts, and so on in the National Capital Region. Many, many services that all the organization can come together as one. The African organization, and also...
You're still muted. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
I think we're going to have to go with what we go with. So if you could speak very loudly.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Craig, Honorable Chandra.
I'm just going to say that I'm going to apologize to all francophones. We won't be able to have translation for this because of there's not enough power in the volume. Go ahead, Francis.
Yes, I'm happy that to be a part of these opportunities to the Black communities and the Black Caucus, which is they are presenting a good job to our community. Special Craig, Honorable Craig, Honorable Sandra, all right? We appreciate that you are always working hard for our benefit of our community and our I believe time how to communicate within government and how to communicate within systems when we're able to have problems. So we are looked at the Black Caucus member of the parliament that we can be able to work with us side by side so that we can be able to be to work. And we are also looking at opportunities that we are health issue in our community. And we work that we can help one another, each other. We are looking at these community, Black communities, whoever that needs, we can be able to provide because we have a cultural awareness within communities that we are leading, how we can be able to communicate with them, how we can be able to tell them what we need and what we exactly we are about. So I would like to go back to Honorable Sandra, who was saying something about me as the president of South Sudan Community Association of Canada here in Vaughan. I hope that he can be able to me so that I can be able to answer his question, fully and appreciate that we're doing also with the government of Canada. You've been, since you guys are in the power, you've been bringing us in a good shape, and we are feeling that we are a part of this organization which we are operating here. So we are looking forward to work hard and what to where we can be able to
thank
our own right. And
thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, we are. I'm going to just open the doors. We had a number of people who we called and were not able to join us. Is there anyone who is on this call who did not have a chance to make a presentation for their organization? All right.
Bonjour Greg.
Sorry. Allô?
Bonjour Greg.
Bonjour Monsieur Garba, ça va bien?
Je n'ai pas entendu le nom de nos structures. Je suppose que je ne suis pas programmé.
Votre organisation, c'est?
ESOCA French Bilingual Newcomers Help Center d'Ottawa.
Juste un instant, on va vérifier. As-tu entendu ça? Peux-tu répéter le nom, s'il vous plaît?
ESOCA French Bilingual Newcomers Help Center à Ottawa. Il y a également ESOCA Afrique Security et Gareso Incorporation.
Juste un instant, s'il vous plaît.
Merci.
Si on vous a schedulé pour cet après-midi, mais si vous voulez aller, oui, alors, oui, je vois ça. Alors, si vous voulez passer maintenant, c'est absolument correct. Je vais juste prendre votre fiche avec vos recommandations et vous avez 2 minutes pour faire votre présentation.
D'accord, merci. Bonjour à tous. Je suis arrivé au Canada en 2015 avec toute ma famille. Nous avons essayé de voir comment nous pouvions aider ceux des nôtres qui arrivaient après nous pour leur éviter les problèmes que nous avons vécus. C'est pour ça que nous avons créé ESOCA French Bilingual Newcomers Help Center qui aide les francophones qui arrivent dans la zone Ontario à s'intégrer, à trouver du travail. Mais la vérité, c'est que le financement est très difficile. Nous avons eu, pour aider les hommes âgés à garder contact téléphoniquement, nous n'avons eu que 4 000 $ pour 6 mois. C'est insuffisant. C'est dans ce sens-là que nous voulions vous dire qu'il faut demander d'augmenter les moyens d'intervention des associations d'aide aux hommes âgés et à l'insertion des francophones. Le deuxième point, c'est ESOCA Afrique, qui est une société de sécurité. Je vous assure que c'est difficile. Après 1 an de régularisation, nous n'avons pu obtenir aucun marché. Est-ce qu'on peut demander... Oui?
Il vous reste 1 minute.
D'accord. Je vais aller. Je disais donc que sur l'Afrique, l'aide qu'on peut nous apporter, c'est comment nous faire intégrer dans des grandes structures pour faire de la sous-traitance. Gareso Incorporation est une société d'exportation. Là, nous avons affaire à un problème de financement. On vous dit, allez dans les banques, on va vous aider, Mais dès qu'on voit une tête qui ne correspond pas au choix habituel, eh bien, c'est négatif. Alors, comment aider des entreprises gérées par des Africains à accéder au financement, à accéder au marché pour qu'on puisse donner des emplois dignes à ceux des nôtres qui arrivent ou qui sont là depuis un certain temps. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. C'est très utile. Vous posez une bonne question. J'espère qu'on va avoir une réponse pour vous. Avant qu'on passe aux questions, y a-t-il un autre organisme qui n'a pas eu la chance à se présenter ce matin? Fran?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Fergus. So I'm with the Black Business and Professional Association, 38 years representing Black businesses and providing access and data. What we're hearing from them is that we need help now, that the many of the Black businesses, and I will specifically speak to the Little Jamaica Project, they don't have access to the limited access to the CEBA program. They can't get capital funding. This is what we're hearing. This year we received 1,500 applications from young students entering university. While we were able to award 108 scholarships totaling $300,000, we still had 1,400 that went unanswered. So we are using those as an incubator to start with the process of creating Black businesses. And we're doing that through a BADES program, Business Advisory Implementation Development Services, where it's an end-to-end program where we hold hand our young Black entrepreneurs and take them through the end. So we help them with the business case, with funding, with going to the bank to getting funding, with their accounting, with filing their taxes, all the way to the end. And it is the hope that that program is what is going to ignite our Black community. This is funded through private donors, and we're hoping that more will come on. But initially we have 150 Black businesses. All the businesses on Little Jamaica, Eglinton West will be a part of this, because as you well know, more than 50% have shuttered as a result of COVID and the construction. So we're hoping that with BADES, we can help them survive and thrive. Those of them who have managed to keep alive. We are opening up a storefront, a BBPA in the community on Eglinton West, where our businesses can walk in and say to us, these are what our needs are, these are what our issues are. So we will be physically present in Little Jamaica starting 2 weeks from now, where we have an office where it is manned. They can come in, they can speak to experts. We will have experts every day sitting there to talk to them in all capacities they need to run their businesses. So that's what we're doing. And we did the survey, and the survey showed that our Black businesses are suffering and that we are really not thriving. So what do we need now, Honorable Fergus? We need the funding. We need it now to provide the awareness and to provide solutions. Thank you for this opportunity to share that with you.
Thank you very much for that. And now we will move on to the questions and answers period. We have a question from Chandra Arya. Chandra.
Thanks, Greg. Hey, John, welcome. I think African Canadian Association had got 2 chances today. That's good. Before I come to you, I just want to tell Francis L. that if there's any specific budget ask, please do send it to us in writing. And we'll certainly look into that. Going back to John and Godlove on the African Descendants Center of Excellence project, you or Godlove wanted to give slightly much more inputs. Here is your opportunity. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chandra. I would like Godlove to step in, please. Godlove.
Yes, thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, Chandra. The whole idea behind this African Canadian Centers of Excellence is to produce a Doppler effect of excellence. We saw the nucleus in Ottawa, and it's going to radiate outwards like a Doppler effect and infect every African Canadian community in Canada, in North America, and the whole world. It's to empower Africans to bring to the table the best that they have, and we can only start by sowing the seed here in Ottawa and making it grow the way it should grow. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Yes.
And Francis, if sorry, John, did you have anything to add?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Francis, as I said earlier, if you have anything specific ask for the budget, please let us know. Thank you, Greg. I'm done.
Thank you, Chandra. On a une question de Dominique Mackay. Dominique? Vous êtes en sourdine. Voilà.
Yes, thank you, Greg. So basically, our question is around capacity building and capacity to fund organization in the West, because that's our biggest issue. And really what we want to know is whether or not it's becoming to be a bit of a systemic issue for us and a systemic barrier that our organization are always deemed to be too small to be funded. And obviously we cannot access any of the funding that we actually need. So we are consistently doing subpar work because of the lack of funding. So what can actually be done to target those organizations that are doing good work now and that need the support today?
That's an excellent question, and that's part of what we're trying to get to. I don't know if Adam Vaughan might want to give if he's available to give an answer to that question as to how we reach out to. No, I see that he is occupied on his other call. We are going to get you an answer, Dominic. It is not easy because, of course, we've been Minister Ahmed Hussein, our Black Cabinet Minister, has been doing some incredible work along with Adam Vaughan in making sure that community organizations have a Black lens. That is, that they have to show that they are reaching out to Black-run, Black-focused communities and activities. But Adam, I see that you're back on. I was wondering if you can give us a good run through on that.
Sorry, I'm assuming you're talking about the UN money?
Yes.
Yeah. I was just ironically just on a telephone call with the minister's office trying to sort out a bunch of announcements we're doing this week. So there are two significant components to it. One is the transfer, of course, to the Black-led intermediaries to provide funding dollars from Tropicana, Transat, and the Nova Scotia Black Business Initiative. Those transfer agreements have been executed now, or orchestrated, and that intake and dispersal is about to flow. We have, of course, with Dr. Bain on the line, and the remarks he made earlier around minorities within minorities in terms of a linguistic minority and the West Island and stuff and such. We have will also be appointing some additional advisors to that granting process because we don't have organizations out west and up north that can provide us additional insight as to how to best reach all corners of the country to serve all communities of African and Black Canadians. But those processes are to be announced this week, actually, I believe, if not with this week, early next week. In terms of how those agreements are going to be managed. The other thing I can say, and I don't want to upstage my minister or steal his scoop, but Minister Hussein has been doing some extraordinary work at end of year budget time. And so the intake we took over the summer for the capacity building program, with grants of up to $100,000, it was an amount of money that I will tell you, we had 1,100 applications from across the country. 300 or so came from business-led organizations, and this, of course, for the nonprofit and charitable and community serving sector. It's not the business part of our approach to supporting Black-led institutions or African Canadian institutions. On that front, the minister has been working very hard to increase the funding envelope, and it looks like he's found a solution to that. And we should have some very, very positive response in the next few days as it relates to that particular intake. So we had close to 800 applications for the capacity building exercise, which just tells you two things. One, how extraordinary the network of extraordinary the network of Black-led organizations is across the country, which I think is something that we can all take a bit of pride in. But secondarily, how strong and pronounced the need is for capacity building, and so it has given us the data and, quite frankly, the catalog of initiatives to go back to cabinet for more money, but also to find more money within the department. And I think that Ahmed has done some extraordinary work here, and I think we'll all be very happy over the next couple of days. Does that clarify it, or is there more information? I'm sorry, my attention was split for a couple of seconds there.
Do appreciate that.
May I add some force to what he has just said? And
please go ahead, Dr.
We have estimated that in Quebec, that the amount of the demand is such and the need is such that we need something on the order of $22 to $25 million per year to address the issues of core funding and support for business operations. Right now, it's probably something like an estimate of $25 to $30 per capita. That's nothing. You can almost go and borrow on your credit card as opposed to becoming engaged in writing applications. So it's not just a question of the number of applications, it's a question of the size of the grants that can be afforded or made available to these agencies so that they can produce something effective, that they can give you effective and the taxpayers effective results for the monies that they divert towards them.
Okay. No, sorry, Kembe from your organization has reached out a couple of times to illustrate exactly how partial grants can actually set you up for failure as opposed to success, and that point is well taken.
Yes, because what the organizations are saying now is, well, it's better than nothing, but we have been saying that for the last 100 years. It's better than nothing, and nothing is happening. So we're going to have to step up the sacrifice from the taxpayer's perspective.
Point taken.
I have a number of questions for some of the organizations before we go back to questions from the participants. If I could, Pacifique du Centre Chica, vous avez mentionné l'importance d'avoir de l'argent pour, vous avez juste mentionné tout à la fin, pour des questions concernant des questions juridiques au niveau communautaire. J'aimerais, si vous pouvez juste renchérir vos commentaires là-dessus, ou Pamela, sur cette question de community legal empowerment.
Oui, merci Craig pour votre question. Eh bien, ça, c'est un projet qui nous tient à cœur et qui, bien sûr, est motivé par le fait qu'il y a une surreprésentation de la population noire au niveau carcéral. Et une des choses qu'on aimerait faire, c'est bien sûr de s'assurer que on améliore en fait les relations entre la communauté et les services de police, les services chargés d'appliquer la loi de façon générale. Et la première chose qui nous est venue à l'esprit, ça serait effectivement de s'assurer que les gens sont d'abord informés de leurs droits face par exemple à des activités comme l'arrestation ou autres. Et non seulement une information par rapport à leurs droits constitutionnels, mais aussi par rapport à leurs obligations. Alors, donc, à ce niveau, c'est vraiment le projet est à l'étape préliminaire, mais c'est quelque chose qui essentiellement aura pour objectif de voir comment améliorer justement les relations entre la communauté et les services de police. Parce que quand les services de police se pointent, eh bien, la crainte est là que il n'y a pas d'autres issues que d'être arrêté. Donc, c'est la raison pour laquelle on veut justement travailler sur ce côté-là.
Super, merci beaucoup, Pacifique. Une autre question pour, another question for Ayaan Abdoulaye. Ayaan, you, I think, quite eloquently brought up the notion of intersectionality, and especially in regards to young Black Muslim, young Black Muslim men and women in Canada between ages of 15 and 29. And I was wondering if you could talk more to this growing cohort in terms of some of the needs that they will need. Is Ayaan Abdoulaye still there? Oh, I realize no, she is. She must be having some technical issues. All right. Oh, are you there?
No, but if I can talk about the same thing, we have the same issue.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Miriam.
Yeah, because I'm a young offender cancer and I'm from Somali community, and we have the highest number of crimes. Our kids been misidentified, and sometimes children already been their fingerprints already been taken, right? Because they look alike, and then now because of the criminal record, it takes time until proven, innocent, right? So we have a lot of that issue. It makes more young people to become more angry. So it's kind of like it becomes the law and the youth, right? And we want to try to look for a way where we can stop that, because I remember the time of David Miller, we had a youth tank. We let the
I'm sorry, the time of whom?
David Miller. When
okay, David Miller. Thank you.
We were part of the caucus of Black, representative at the city council, right? That it was amazing because we let the youth lead youth, the youth think tank, because kind of like you give them opportunity to be leaders for themselves, because a lot of people they're speaking for the youth, but the youth themselves are not there to represent themselves, and it's so important. I'm a mother. I have young people, and they're very educated and they're very talented to manage to bring their issues ahead, because sometimes it's just anger piling up. They feel like nobody hear their voice, So there's so many things which we can manage to all work together, like you guys to have a forum. I'm suggesting you, Their Highness, Honorable, I read your bio, like I know what you are, and I impress you, because to bring all of us together, it's a very good thing. And the next, we just have to have a continuation to have a forum. I know even we can have a forum right online, Zoom call with
I'm sorry,
all
Miriam,
the time. So we do this. We can do this.
Can you just repeat the last 10 seconds, because your internet connection.
Sorry, I'm so passionate.
No, that's fine.
What I'm saying, right? Okay. First of all, I appreciate for you doing this, because I read your profile.
Got that. It was just the last 10 seconds. It was.
We need to do forum. We need to do forum on a Zoom, like exactly like this, as soon after, like a follow-up quicker, right? Because when things are fresh in their people's mind, we take actions, right? And we can unite, and teamwork make the dream work. We can help our mothers who are stressed out at home. We have so many people on mental health because their children end up in jail. There's so many issues because of culture sensitive, religion sensitive. So all these things we can manage really working together, because I saw many good things today to hear everybody speaking. And the only thing is, you need to reach out to the kid. Like, look at in Brampton, I don't find many of the things to be addressed. Toronto, yes, we have quite a few, but it's just unite. If we unite together, we don't need to duplicate the same thing over and over, but it can be duplication on activity,
Right.
Conquer. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, we have some questions here, and we'll start with a person who has a social media following that would be the envy of us all, Dr. Vibe. Oh, Dr. Vibe, although we see that your microphone is off, we are not. Oh, there we go.
All right, there we go. Well, it's not so much a question, it's just a statement. I would like, and I didn't see too much input on this, in regards to funding for Black Canadian media companies. You know, it's been a key part of Canadian history since before Confederation. In 1853, Mary Ann Shadd, one of Canada's first female journalists, founded the Provincial Freedom in Windsor, Ontario. And now Canada boasts numerous publications that serve the country's Black population of more than 1.2 million. Now, in lieu of time, I won't get into details. I'll probably email you this, Greg, if I have your permission.
Please.
And what we want, though, what a number of Canadian Black entrepreneur media companies are looking for is funding and resources that are allocated for Black media entrepreneurs is a vital step in supporting meaningful change in the media industry and also in Canada, which is in desperate need of revitalization, equity, and better representation in Canada. The absence of funding is a systemic barrier for Black Canadian media entrepreneurs, and Black Canadians and Canada want to ensure that it is removed once and for all.
Very good. And actually, we did have a couple of presentations about media and support for media. Unfortunately, one of the companies wasn't able to be part of this panel here, but we did receive input, so that will be reflected in the report. Thank you, Dr. Vibe.
No problem. I will email you this too. Thanks, Greg.
Please, the earlier you can, the better it is, so that
you'll get it by end of day.
Oh, you're a great Canadian. All right. We also have a question from Nene Akintan, which is actually funny because I had a question for her. So Nene, I'm gonna throw. It's a question for you and Temi, but I know Temi is off writing her exam. The whole part of your pre-budget presentation really, if I could bottom line it, circulates around the theme of, you have to see it to believe it, to inspire to give young people an opportunity to see that their horizons are greater. I was wondering if you can continue on that front. I think that's a very interesting theme of the importance of representation in science and technology and education and the like.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, we've been advocating for youth for quite a while, and actually privately sourcing these funds to do that. And we were on a roundtable recently with the school board in Halton, and we asked a simple question: how many of the books in your library reflect Black history? And they were like, well, we talk about the Underground Railroad, we talk about slavery. So I said, okay, do you talk about
Black civilization
in Africa? Yeah, in Africa, Mansa Musa of Mali and Queen Amina of Zaria. And do you talk about the great works of art that were looted by the colonial masters? And they were like, no. So I'm like, okay, history gives a lot of confidence to a lot of these young Black children, because all they know about Christopher Columbus, they know about slavery, but they don't know about the beauty of being a Black person of strength. And so while we're asking for things like this, it's just to give us actually a sense of identity, knowing that I'm Black, I'm proud, and I can actually achieve a lot in my life. I don't just have to hear about, like the lady was talking about, the Somalians who the police confused because they all look alike. So if you have things that give them a sense of self, it may seem it's intrinsic. It's not something. It's not like capital, money, funds for grants for businesses, but it's an intrinsic sense of self, which with a lot of the Black kids we've spoken to, they say, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can be more than this because I don't see that around me. So we need more funds to highlight what it means to be a successful Black person. The Black person, like Tammy said, is not a single story. It's a collage of stories about who we are as Black people, and we are great people. We have achieved so much, but these things are not highlighted in our school libraries and the like.
I think there'll be a lot of agreement around the table for that sentiment, for sure.
We can start by always understanding that anything that we are saying presently may have been said before, and we should always make reference to the contributions of those that went before. I would like to, in my opinion, we Black people ourselves are the greatest deniers of our history. We don't pay respect to the fact that something that we are saying and observing now has come and was already said and addressed by somebody just 10 years ago in an organization. That is important for our young people. It is important then for them to know that there are among them their parents, friends, have made a contribution, have opened the door for them to cross the road without wondering whether, as a Black person, they can cross the road. We have to do it. We don't really even need the history books. We have to do it. Every time we speak, we should say that Black organization in 10 years ago presented the case. This organization has taken the position further to this point. We don't do that. We always speak as if we are the authors of everything that has happened. And the only people who has understood and seen it is we, the person speaking now. That has to stop.
True. I would say, Dr. Baines, though, I think that is just the affliction of the young, and as we get a little older, we really do appreciate so many of the people who have walked before us to give us what we have today, and who have fought the battles, sometimes won and sometimes failed, or failed in their time, but they have not failed overall, because others will do take up that torch. So I do appreciate that. Very good points that are made. Folks, we are running out of time. We've gone over time here. I have just one more person who has their hand up. If I could just...
I didn't ask a question, MP Fergus.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Nene.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Thank you so much for organizing this. So my question is around how you'll be able to allocate funds to small non-profit organizations like ours. Because along this cultural perspective, we have been raising funds privately, and we do something called Oakville Nigerian Culture Days in Oakville. But we need to be able to do other things, because Nigeria is not the only Black country. So my question is around, would you be allocating funds to do things like this for smaller nonprofits that are not corporations and things like that?
So this is the whole point of us having these consultations, is for us, this is the second year we've organized consultations as a Black Caucus for Black organization, the 3B organizations, is precisely so we can make the point. It strengthens our hands when we are able to go to the finance minister and to the finance committee and say, here is our report. Here's our written report. Here are the submissions which back it up. This is what we heard from the communities. I think we saw some good initiatives which have come to light, which was born of our consultation last year, and I am very hopeful, and I'm certainly going to work very hard along with my colleagues in Black Caucus to making sure that many of the ideas that are presented here today become a reality. I'm a little bit more, experienced to say that not everything that we are going to propose is going to come forward, and I can't promise that. But I know that as we try to suss out the consensus points, we do bring those forward, and we fight very hard to make those things come a reality. So, Nene, all I could say is that I need your help to make that a reality. Keep on talking about this, keep on sharing it, write letters, talk about it publicly, keep that movement going. Meet with your local member of parliament. I believe, are you also based in Kingston? And if you were, please, meet with Mark Gerritsen, or wherever you are, meet with your local member of parliament, say that you participated in this event today. And you heard, and this is a message to all of you, please contact your local MPs. Tell them that you participated in here today and what you took out of the meeting, and that you would hope that you can get her or his support for these initiatives going forward. And let's support each other. I think Dr. Bain is absolutely right. And also, someone else had just mentioned it. We cannot be crabs in a bucket. We cannot be jealous of one organization being successful for one application in a program. We should be happy for them. We should be supportive of them, and we should get them to come and support us or your organization when you make an application. Because no one sees the Nigerian Canadian, no one sees a Rwandan Canadian, no one sees a Burundian Canadian, no one sees a Jamaican Canadian. What they see is Black. We're all Black. So let's all support each other for one initiative, and then we all move and support the other person in another initiative. And that's how we win with the numbers that we have, because nobody sees the differences that we might see. So let's stick together, and we can accomplish some great things. And I need your help as much as you may need mine.
Well said. One last thing for us, Greg, if possible. It's Dom Mackay here.
Dom, go ahead. You can speak a little louder. I don't know why the microphone's not picking you up as closely as it did before.
You have mentioned earlier that we should talk to our local MPs and mention this. But what we will want from you as an organization and as people speaking for the West is a strong commitment from the Black Caucus that the question of the West will be looked at with all of its complexity. We are systemically unable to access funding because of our situation. And until that is resolved, we will not be able to make much progress. So we want that commitment from the caucus as well.
So hear me out. You will have support. Every one of you will have support from the Black Caucus, but we also need to support each other. It can't just be Black Caucus alone that's always going after these issues. We need allies, and that's why I need your help to making sure that you go to your MP and you push hard. So yes, I'll answer your question for sure, but we all have to be in this together. And although some people might see progress on some files earlier than others, we don't believe in leaving anyone behind. It's just sometimes it will just happen at a different time. That's all. All right, folks. We are going to have to break here because we've gone 20 minutes over our time. We do have interpretive services that are doing us a great favor by being available to us here. Alors, we are going to take a break. Our next round will start at 1:30 p.m. For those of you who've made presentations, you don't have to log back in, but know that you can watch us on the YouTube channel. And we will be, as I said, publishing a report. And once we do, you will all receive a copy of our summary and the supporting documents for the report. So thank you all for participating this morning. Merci beaucoup de votre participation. Puis on va continuer à 13h30.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Merci.
very much.
Merci, Greg.
This has been very
Bonne
good.
soirée.
Very good.
Bonne journée.
Thank you. God bless you. God bless. Thank you.
Merci, honorable.
Thank you very much.